Chapter 860. Qin Wentian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this scene. This fellow was truly too crazy. That power earlier was truly terrifying. Qin Wentian could faintly sense that Jun Mengchen seemed to have borrowed the power of an ancient source of energy. That punch he blasted out contained a heaven-shaking might, killing the disciple of the absolute poison immortal king in a single strike. Jun Mengchen didn't even have the time to summon his blood clone. The aura of the absolute poison immortal king fluctuated as a fearsome pressure gushed forth. His disciple was actually killed on the battle platform. Sweeping his gaze over, the absolute poison immortal king turned to Deep Flame. At this moment, Deep Flame's expression was similarly unsightly to behold. This battle was instigated by him. He sent a message to the absolute poison immortal king, telling his disciple to deal with Jun Mengchen. But now, his disciple died because of this, and it was under such circumstances. Even if the absolute poison immortal king wanted to protect his disciple, he couldn't blame Jun Mengchen. Everyone could see that the disciple of the absolute poison immortal king wanted Jun Mengchen's life, wanting to kill Jun Mengchen with poison. Jun Mengchen didn't break the rules. This immortal banquet was held for the sake of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, a grand occasion of the Dongshengsheng Gate. Even if he, the absolute poison immortal king, was a war general under the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, how could he kill a genius with outstanding talent just because he wanted to protect his disciple? Both sides are dead. You are truly a life-and-death struggle. No one will cure you of this poison. Although it was impossible for the absolute poison immortal king to act against Jun Mengchen, he wouldn't allow anyone to cure Jun Mengchen. His voice was cold, and as expected, a strange light flashed in the eyes of some powerful immortal kings. They instantly understood what was going on. Although the poison of the absolute poison immortal king's disciple was powerful, there were so many supreme immortal kings here. It wasn't a difficult matter to cure the poison. However, the words of the absolute poison immortal king meant that whoever cured Jun Mengchen of the poison would undoubtedly offend him. Jun Mengchen was still sitting on the battle platform. The experts at the immortal banquet were as many as the clouds, yet no one was willing to lend a helping hand to him. This heaven-defying heaven chosen was now in such a miserable state. If there's no one to cure him, he still has to die. Zuyu from the battle heaven's immortal manor coldly spoke. He's just courting death. Gu Zhantai continued. They were already extremely unhappy with how Jun Mengchen managed to turn defeat into victory. But luckily, Jun Mengchen himself had no way to survive. He would die to the blood poison. Even if you die, nothing will happen to Jun Mengchen. Qin Wentian's eyes were cold as he stared at the lonely silhouette of Jun Mengchen. He and Zi Qingxian slowly walked out, moving towards the battle platform. Jun Mengchen smiled at the two of them. Although his countenance was black, he still had a smile on his face. At least you didn't lose face. Even if you walk down the battle platform, you have to walk down in a dignified manner. As he spoke, Jun Mengchen struggled to stand up as he let out a low roar. Step by step, he slowly walked down the battle platform, arriving beside Qin Wentian. His handsome eyes were still gleaming with a radiant light. After that, he closed his eyes and collapsed onto Qin Wentian. Although Jun Mengchen had a heaven-defying physique, his body was still made of flesh and blood after all. His king's qi wasn't invulnerable to all poisons. The blood poison in the body of the absolute poison immortal king was undoubtedly fatal to those at the same cultivation level. Jun Mengchen was able to persist until he killed his opponent and even walked down the battle platform in a dignified manner. This already caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. Although this young man was young and had the hot-bloodedness of youth, his state of heart as well as his strong willpower were all priceless. Naturally, what made people pay attention to him the most was his supreme combat talent as well as his unique physique. Being able to turn the tables under such circumstances and kill the personal disciple of the absolute poison immortal king, this was definitely a heaven-defying talent. Jun Mengchen had an extraordinary relationship with Qin Wentian. If this person didn't die, he would definitely be the same as Qin Wentian, ranked within the top 10. Qin Wentian carried Jun Mengchen's body as he walked back step by step. His steps were resolute as his countenance was cold. Inclining his head, Qin Wendian stared at the absolute poison immortal king, as well as the deep flame immortal king. He, Qin Wendian, had experienced countless storms before. How could he not understand the meaning behind the words of the absolute poison immortal king? This supreme immortal king had already promised the deep flame immortal king that his disciple would come here to take Jun Mengchen's life. Now that his disciple was killed by Jun Mengchen, he was filled with resentment, but he didn't care about the cause and effect. Humans are like this, they would only consider things from their own perspective. Why would they care about others? In the eyes of this absolute poison immortal king, Jun Mengchen's life couldn't even be compared to a single sentence from the deep flame immortal king. Senior worries too much. It's just a mere blood poison, Qin, wouldn't bother others to cure it. I also wouldn't bother Senior. Since my junior apprentice brother could easily kill that person, I can easily cure this poison as well. Qin Wendian stared at the absolute poison immortal king as he emotionlessly spoke, his arrogance towering up into the sky. This was especially so for the second half of his sentence. It was undoubtedly filled with contempt for the absolute poison immortal king. We are fellow apprentice brothers, my junior apprentice brother can kill your disciple and I can cure your disciple's poison. These words of his didn't give any face to the absolute poison immortal king at all, as though it was directed at the words of the absolute poison immortal king earlier. These two are as expected of fellow apprentice brothers, truly unbridled and arrogant, daring to talk back to anyone. Everyone stared at Qin Wendian. This young man's personality was somewhat similar to Jun Mengchen's. They were both stubborn and didn't know what compromise was. His heart was filled with the hot-bloodedness of youth, incomparably frivolous. Regardless of the situation, regardless of the target, he would do things according to his heart. The aura of the absolute poison immortal king gushed forth, exuding a terrifying pressure that enveloped Qin Wendian. His eyes were pitch black, incomparably cold, causing Qin Wendian to halt his steps. This was because the absolute poison immortal king's aura was simply too overwhelming. Senior, what are you doing? Senior is a supreme immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate. As long as the Dongshengshan Gate says a single word, all of us can voluntarily withdraw and leave this place. Qin Wendian countered with cold arrogance. The absolute poison immortal king retracted his aura and spoke, boasting shamelessly. I truly want to see how you are going to cure this poison. There's no need for Senior to worry about this. Qin Wendian's expression was as cold as ever. He carried Jun Mengchen back to his seat while Zi Qingxian followed beside him. Many people turned their gazes to Qin Wendian. Even for Princess Liuli, who was beside Dong Xingting, her beautiful eyes were also staring at Qin Wendian and Jun Mengchen. These two young geniuses gave her an extraordinary feeling. The battles on the battle platform will continue. Everyone, don't be distracted. Let's continue. Dong Xingting involuntarily spoke when he saw that after Jun Mengchen walked down the platform, there was actually no one else who went up. Only now did everyone come to their senses. More and more experts went up the platform and started another round of intense battles. In the earlier battles, there were already too many powerful geniuses who appeared. Because the geniuses who went up the platform were all fighting with their full strength, they knew very well that only 20 people would be able to pass this round. It was exceedingly difficult to obtain a single slot. At the very least, one had to have a glorious battle record in their cultivation base and must not lose twice, or it would be extremely dangerous for them. The battles on the platform grew more and more violent. However, Qin Wendian had no idea about this at all. His eyes were tightly shut as a white flame appeared in his body, dancing unceasingly at the tip of his finger, transforming into a white candle flame. After which, he tapped it on Jun Mengchen's chest. Mengchen, guide your own energy and guide the flame I infused into your body into your bloodline, allowing it to circulate throughout your entire body. Qin Wendian transmitted his voice to Jun Mengchen. He knew that Jun Mengchen was still clear-headed. Back then, his foster father, the human emperor of Yi, was also afflicted with the blood poison. Although he was heavily injured, because of his strength, he was still clear-headed and could still move normally. The blood poison Jun Mengchen was afflicted with was even more profound than that of the absolute poison immortal kings. However, Qin Wentian had experience in detoxifying poison before. In addition, right now, he could already control a strand of the other bloodline in his body, allowing him to control it freely. With this advantage, as long as Jun Mengchen cooperated with him, it wouldn't be difficult for him to detoxify the poison. And as expected, Qin Wentian could sense the flow of energy in Qin Wentian's body. The candlelight from his finger continued to seep into Jun Mengchen's body. Zi Qingxian quietly watched from the side. As time flowed by, she only saw a pure white flame igniting on the surface of Jun Mengchen's body. There seemed to be runic light circulating around him as his entire body turned translucent. That fiery glow covered every inch of his body. As the sound of sizzling rang out, Zi Qingxian saw the black-colored mist surrounding Jun Mengchen gradually evaporating under the heat of the candlelight. Her eyes instantly brightened. This was the blood poison being expelled. What a powerful ability, he can actually expel the blood poison. Is this an innate technique? Zi Qingshuan's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian. In that case, didn't this mean that Qin Wentian was impervious to all poisons? As more and more bloodline energy flowed into Jun Mengchen's body, Jun Mengchen's consciousness grew clearer and clearer. He was able to control more of the energy in his body, following Qin Wentian's footsteps, circulating the energy to every part of his body. The black-colored poison vaporized faster and gradually, Jun Mengchen's skin returned to its original color. His eyes opened and he stared at Qin Wentian, who was currently helping him expel the poison. A warm feeling could be felt in his heart as he called out in a low voice, "Senior brother." The word, "senior brother," seemed to surpass 1,000 words. Calm your heart and recuperate. This blood poison is extremely hard to deal with. If you don't expel it completely, it will corrode your body and spread further. Qin Wentian spoke. Jun Mengchen's eyes flashed before he closed them again, focusing on expelling the poison. This scene caused the spectators to have looks of astonishment on their faces. Qin Wentian actually cured Jun Mengchen of the poison. On the high platform, the absolute poison immortal king's eyes turned over. His attention had never left this place. When he saw Qin Wentian curing Jun Mengchen of the poison, his countenance was as unsightly as it could be. He was the absolute poison immortal king, a supreme existence, a war general under his majesty. First, his disciple was killed, and now, he was provoked by a junior. Not only that, the junior actually used his actions to prove his words, curing the blood poison. Clenching his fists tightly, killing intent flashed in the eyes of the absolute poison immortal king. A moment later, Qin Wentian spoke to Jun Mengchen, "It's done." As the sound of his voice faded, boundless candlelight instantly gushed out from Jun Mengchen's body, returning to him. Jun Mengchen sat up, his handsome eyes regained their luster. It was as though he had sensed something. He turned his gaze towards the direction of deep flame and the absolute poison immortal king as a hint of arrogance and provocation flickered in his eyes. If that person encountered senior brother, he most probably wouldn't even know how he died. Jun Mengchen coldly spoke. The absolute poison immortal king was infuriated, but he had no way to retort. Chapter 861. The battles on the platform continued. In the immortal banquet, the immortal kings chatted freely, occasionally commenting on the geniuses. The beautiful myriad incarnations immortal king was extremely quiet. She spoke to Hua Taishu, who was seated beside her. In the battle back then, Qin Wentian displayed his brilliance. You should be more familiar with him. Now that so many years have passed, although your improvement is godly, his cultivation speed isn't inferior to yours. If you fought against him, how confident are you in winning? Hua Taishu's current cultivation base was actually the same as Qin Wentian, at the 5th level of celestial phenomenon. The myriad incarnations immortal king knew very well what kind of price he had to pay to improve so quickly. In addition, she personally guided him. When she first met Qin Wentian and saw the ranking of the 27th rankers of the Cloud Prefecture, the myriad incarnations immortal king also felt that Hua Taishu should have already left Qin Wentian in the dust. But who would have thought that the arrogant and unruly young man back then was now even more mature? No matter where he went, he would radiate an unparalleled sharpness. I have no idea. Hua Taishu turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian as he shook his head. The him now, his temperament had long changed. As he matured step by step, many things in the past were indifferent to him. However, in his heart, there was still a stubbornness he couldn't let go of. Truly fighting against Qin Wentian. He obtained the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings. In the next selection round, Qin Wentian also obtained the same glory. In the immortal martial realm, Qin Wentian caught up from behind and obtained the top ranker. Qin Wentian's performance was once again the most outstanding among the Eastern Sage Immortal Sect's disciples. You experienced 9 reincarnations in the samsara world and are one of the rarest geniuses who managed to walk out alive. Although you have cultivated for over 40 years, your mental age far surpasses your actual age. Other than this, you have also experienced many other tempering methods. Now, you actually don't have the confidence to defeat him. The myriad incarnations Immortal King laughed as she stared at Hua Taishu. Hua Taishu's countenance was as calm as ever. He had indeed experienced 9 reincarnations and his heart was incomparably tough. I've experienced all sorts of tempering, but so has he. Many times, we only see our own hard work, neglecting the progress and growth of others. Hua Taishu spoke in a low voice. In terms of innate talent, I'm inferior to him. Astral souls, bloodline limit, these are all innate talents that cannot be made up for. That's true. However, there's no need for you to undervalue yourself. Your comprehension abilities and cultivation speed are both extraordinary. Although great geniuses were born late, it doesn't mean that you can't catch up to the older generation. There are many ordinary characters who relied on their firm conviction and determination to cultivate to the Immortal King realm. Their combat prowess would naturally be even more terrifying. The myriad incarnations Immortal King spoke. As the two of them chatted, they didn't seem like master and disciple, but more like brother and sister. Finally, the smoke on the ancient battle platform dissipated. No one else continued to step onto that solemn ancient platform. Everyone had already experienced at least 10 battles. For those who felt that their performance wasn't strong enough, they chose to experience even more battles, wanting to stand out from the crowd. Dongxing Ting sat on the highest seat. His gaze swept over the participants as he asked, "Is there anyone else who wishes to challenge me?" All the geniuses remained silent, and no one continued to fight. Sure. Dongxing Ting saw that no one dared to challenge him. After which, he smiled and stared at the Immortal Kings as he spoke, "This battle has concluded. Many geniuses have extraordinary performances. Dongxing Ting would like to invite all the seniors to select 20 participants to advance to the next round. For those who lost 3 battles, there's no need to consider them. For the top 20, they can at most have 2 defeats. What do all the seniors think?" "Your Highness is right." Seated beside Dongxing Ting were a few supreme characters from the Dongshengshan Gate. All of them nodded their heads. There was no need to consider those who lost 3 battles. "In that case, I would like to invite Princess Lioli to announce the names for us. Princess Lioli will point out one person for all the elders to decide if this person has the qualifications to enter the top 20 or not. Does Princess Lioli agree?" Dongxing Ting smiled. Many of the people here were supreme characters. They would naturally be able to tell if the performance of these people was outstanding or not. Out of these 20 participants, other than a few who might have some disputes, there were at least 10 or so who would be able to advance to the next round. Under such a solemn atmosphere, nobody would dare to lie. Okay. Princess Lioli wasn't humble at all and directly nodded her head in agreement. Momentarily, some of the geniuses below felt nervous, but there were even more who felt disappointment. They were very clear of their own performance. Most probably, they wouldn't have a chance to advance to the next round. I will directly point out the names and let the elders decide. Princess Lioli stared at the geniuses of the Immortal Banquet. Her eyes landed on Gusu Tianqi as she spoke, top ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Gusu Tianqi. After he was defeated in the first round, he won all his battles after that, and didn't exchange more than 3 moves. He should be able to advance to the next round, right? Gusu Tianqi will naturally advance. Gusu Tianqi, there's no suspense. Yes. The various immortal kings all expressed their opinions, none of them objected. Gusu Tianqi didn't have any objections and advanced to the top 20. Princess Liuli's gaze shifted, the hearts of the geniuses all seemed to move along with her. Top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Feather King of the Winged Devil race. Princess Liuli's eyes landed on Feather King as she spoke. Yes. Agreed. The immortal kings all expressed their opinions. Without any suspense, Feather King passed, becoming the second person to advance to the next round. Princess Liuli's beautiful eyes continued to shift. After that, the crowd only saw her gaze landing in the direction of the Cloud Prefecture. The idle Cloud Immortal King was actually somewhat agitated. The Cloud Prefecture's performance this time around was extremely outstanding, something rarely seen in history. Second ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Jun Mengchen, has no defeats. After being poisoned, he still managed to kill the disciple of the Absolute Poison Immortal King. Princess Liuli's voice was incomparably calm, her words causing the crowd to be astonished. The gazes of the crowd turned to her, before turning to the Absolute Poison Immortal King. This Princess Liuli truly didn't care about anything. The third person she pointed out was none other than Jun Mengchen, and she even claimed that Jun Mengchen killed the disciple of the Absolute Poison Immortal King. Agreed. A supreme immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate was the first to nod. Yes. Another person replied, not caring about the thoughts of the Absolute Poison Immortal King. After all, they had to be responsible for the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor. Jun Mengchen was truly outstanding. If he could really enter the top 3, he would become a sage child. Even if he offended an immortal king, the immortal king wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Other than a few who had a good relationship with Absolute Poison Immortal King, the others all agreed. Dongsheng Ting then announced, no objections. Yes. Princess Liuli's gaze didn't move. She stared at Qin Wentian, who was beside Jun Mengchen as she spoke. Qin Wentian, 27th ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, undefeated record. The atmosphere turned silent for a moment. After that, an immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate spoke, yes. Everyone expressed their opinions one after another, no one objected. The Deep Flame Immortal King still maintained his silence. Qin Wentian, passed. Zi Qingxian, undefeated record. Princess Liuli spoke again. Once again, no one objected. Zi Qingxian, passed. Staring at the three of them who seemed to be fellow apprentice brother and sister, many people couldn't help but feel bewildered. These 3 outstanding characters, which power nurtured them from? Why was it that no one knew about it? Even their sect wasn't present at the scene. Other than the Dongshengshan Gate, which other power would be so powerful as to nurture 3 such demon-level geniuses? Could it be that it wasn't a sect but was a supreme expert instead? This might be possible. Top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Gu Zhantian, undefeated record. Princess Liuli continued. No one objected, Gu Zhantian passed. Top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianchen. Top ranker of the Li Prefecture, Zhang Ao. Top ranker of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, Dugu Shishan. Top ranker of the Supreme Moon Prefecture, Mo1. Top ranker of the Underworld Prefecture, Black Peak. Princess Liuli called out names one by one. None of these people objected and all of them passed. In the blink of an eye, Princess Liuli had already called out 11 names. Next, there were only 9 names remaining. Naturally, these 11 names that Princess Liuli called out were all the more outstanding ones. The majority of the top 10 would probably be from these 11. Second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Xia Jiufeng. Princess Liuli called out another name. The immortal kings glanced at the participants and all expressed their approval. Given Xia Jiufeng's talent, there was no way he would pass on this position. Second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta, a heaven chosen from the heavenly god race. Princess Lioli spoke. The immortal kings all expressed their approval. The second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta, passed. Third ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Sorrowless. Princess Lioli spoke again. The gazes of many turned to the monk in tattered robes. Those immortal kings all expressed their approval once again. The Western Desert Prefecture is so strong. The Cloud Prefecture is also extremely strong. This batch of participants is truly unexpected. Everyone saw Princess Lioli calling out names one by one. Only now did they notice that the weaker Cloud Prefecture had an outstanding performance this time around. The top 3 rankers of the Western Desert Prefecture all passed. Top ranker of the Mo Prefecture, Yen Zimo. Top ranker of the Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan. Top ranker of the Yu Prefecture, Gu Hong. Princess Lioli called out another 3 names. There were no objections. Although the top rankers of the 3 prefectures weren't as dazzling as the geniuses of the other prefectures, there was no problem for them to pass. There are already 17 names. Out of the 13 prefectures, there are 10 top rankers of the 10 prefectures that have been chosen. There are still 3 other prefectures whose performances weren't outstanding enough. I'm afraid it's precisely because of this reason that Princess Lioli hasn't called out their names yet. There will definitely be disputes among them. The hearts of everyone mused. Top ranker of the Thunder Prefecture, Su Feng. Princess Lioli called out Su Feng's name, causing Su Feng's expression to stiffen. How laughable, he was at the same cultivation level as Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian. He only called out his name now after suffering 2 defeats. Su Feng was defeated twice, isn't this a little inappropriate? An immortal king spoke, causing disputes to arise. Su Feng was defeated twice. Both his opponents were extremely strong. As for the final decision, I will leave it to the various seniors. Princess Lioli calmly spoke. The various immortal kings discussed, but when they stared at the participants, they finally decided to let Su Feng pass. There are still 2 more slots left. I'm in a difficult position. Princess Lioli smiled. For the others, there were disputes. None of them had the absolute qualifications to enter the top 20. Since Princess is in a difficult position, let me make a suggestion. Before this, I've already said that the personal disciples of the various immortal kings would be included in the top 20. Right now, the personal disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, Black Peak, has already entered the top 20. I suggest that the personal disciple of the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King, Hua Taishu, and the personal disciple of the Undefeatable Devil King, Ruthless, be included in the top 20. In this way, there wouldn't be any disputes. How about it? Dong Xingting's eyes flickered with a dazzling light as he spoke. Upon hearing the 2 names he called out, the spectators were all taken aback. These were 2 extremely powerful demon-level geniuses. Given their fame, there wouldn't be any disputes if they were to enter. Chapter 862. Dong Xingting's voice caused the eyes of many geniuses to freeze as they felt a chill running down their spines. Among them, there were still many who were filled with anticipation, hoping that their names would appear in the top 20. The longer they waited, the more nervous they got. But at the very end, Dong Xingting actually asked Ruthless and Hua Taishu to make up for the positions of the top 20 geniuses. Among the 13 prefectures, only the top ranker of a prefecture didn't manage to make it into the top 20. The top rankers of the other 12 prefectures all advanced to the top 20. This undoubtedly proved the results of the selection process. However, for the second and third rankers of the various prefectures, only a few managed to make it into the top 20. This was extremely cruel. After all, only the top 20 were left. Many geniuses were blocked outside. Your Highness is right. Just like what Princess Lioli has thought, for the next few characters, no matter who is chosen, there would definitely be disputes. Since that's the case, I agree with Your Highness' suggestion, directly adding Ruthless and Hua Taishu into the top 20. An expert from the Dongshengshan Gate spoke. Sure, I have no objections. The myriad incarnations immortal king had a smile on her face as she glanced at Hua Taishu who was beside her. I have no objections as well. The undefeatable devil king was a devil cultivator. He sat at the seat of honor and rarely spoke. He was like a devil god, exuding a supreme pressure. His disciple Ruthless had a similar aura to him. If not, he wouldn't have accepted Ruthless as his personal disciple. Many supreme existences would choose disciples based on their preferences, choosing those that were suitable for them. How could the various immortal kings oppose Dongxing Ting on such a matter? Naturally, they all agreed unanimously. Dongxing Ting smiled, since all the elders have no objections, it's decided then. For the top 20, we shall go according to Princess Liuli's suggestion of 18, in addition to Hua Taishu and Ruthless. Who? In the Cloud Prefecture's camp, Mu Yun let out a sigh. He initially thought that he would have a chance, but he didn't expect that his name wasn't even mentioned. Only disappointment remained in his heart. Kacha! Zhou Yu of the Battle Heaven's immortal manner clenched his fists so tightly that crackling sounds could be heard. His combat prowess could also be considered extremely powerful and his earlier performance was extremely outstanding. However, his name had never been mentioned before. In fact, he didn't even see Princess Liuli looking at him directly. It was as though she had never placed him in her sights. There were many who were as disappointed as Mu Yun and Zhou Yu. They all believed that they had a sliver of hope, but sadly, reality was cruel. Out of 160 participants, only 20 spots would appear. The geniuses from the 13 prefectures all fought for it, but in the end, 2 spots were replaced by Ruthless and Hua Taishu. This meant that the vast majority of geniuses were destined to be excluded. 3 from the Cloud State and 3 from the Western Desert State. Not bad. An immortal king spoke in a low voice, feeling a little rueful. In the entire Eastern Prefecture, there were only 2 such geniuses. The top ranker, Gusu Tianqi, and the second ranker, Xia Jiufeng. The top 3 rankers of the Western Desert Prefecture had all passed. As for the Cloud Prefecture, other than the top ranker, Gu Zhantian, the other 3 demon-level geniuses were all fellow apprentices and had an extremely good relationship with each other. They gave off a feeling that they had a common enemy and were willing to go through life and death together. Even when facing a character like the Deep Flame Immortal King, they wouldn't hold back at all. Seems like I won't be able to accompany you guys to the next level. Mu Yan, who was beside Qin Wendian, spoke. Ghost Saber Mu Yan's talent could also be considered outstanding, but even so, he had to stop here. The top 18 participants were simply too outstanding, they were all geniuses with the highest talent in their respective prefectures. Not bad at all. Qin Wendian smiled at Mu Yan. Mu Yan nodded his head and raised his wine cup to Qin Wendian and the other 2, seeing how powerful you 3 are, I'm truly proud of you guys. I wish you all the best to walk to the end. Definitely. Jun Mengchen raised his wine cup as well. After which, Qin Wendian and Zi Qingxian also raised their wine cups and drank with Mu Yan. You guys actually became complacent so quickly after escaping death. Zhou Yu stared at the 4 of them, feeling extremely unhappy. An evil fire burned in his heart. As a supreme genius of the Battle Heaven's immortal manner, he, Zhou Yu, knew that his combat prowess was extremely high. However, he didn't even have the qualifications to be nominated. Yet, these 3 before him had all passed. Qin Wendian was even an enemy of his Battle Heaven's immortal manner, having killed many experts from their sect before. One could very well imagine the feeling in Zhou Yu's heart. Jun Mengchen coldly glanced over, only to hear Qin Wendian speaking, Mengchen, there's no need to lower yourself to the level of these people. True dragons soar through the 9 heavens, why is there a need to argue with snakes? You. Zhou Yu pointed his finger at Qin Wendian, feeling incomparably angry. No matter what, his cultivation base was at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon and he could insta-kill any one of Qin Wendian and Zi Qingxian, yet he was being humiliated in such a manner. I really don't know if you have any sense of shame or not. Jun Mengchen mocked as he glanced at Zhou Yu, no longer bothering about him. The Battle Heaven's immortal manor and the other major powers of the Cloud Prefecture all felt extremely unhappy in their hearts when they saw how complacent Qin Wentian and the other two were. Naturally, this was because of the conflict between them and Qin Wentian. If there wasn't a grudge between them and Qin Wentian, they would definitely be willing to be friends with Qin Wentian. This battle has lasted for quite some time and I'm sure all the geniuses here are feeling somewhat fatigued. Let's take a break for 4 hours and everyone can move around freely. Dong Xingting smiled and waved his hands at everyone. Everyone was extremely focused during this battle and it was true that they were somewhat fatigued. It wasn't a bad thing to be able to relax. Alright, the immortal banquet will continue as usual. Everyone, feel free to speak to the serving girls if you have any needs. Dong Xingting stood up. He carried his wine cup and walked towards Princess Lioli as he smiled. Princess, what do you think of these geniuses? Not bad at all, there are quite a few outstanding characters among them. Princess Lioli nodded. In that case, who do you think Princess is most optimistic about? Who do you think would be able to enter the top 3 and become a sage child character? That would have to depend on all of you. How would I be able to guess it? Princess Lioli turned her gaze to the geniuses. She has always been observing, wanting to know if the matter her father told her had anything to do with the immortal banquet at the Dongshengshan Gate. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Dong Xingting has always been in awe of Senior White Emperor but sadly, I've never had the fortune to meet him before. In the future, if there's a chance, I hope that Princess can introduce me to him so that I can fulfill a wish of mine, and pay my respects to the White Emperor. Dong Xingting's words were extremely powerful, inadvertently praising the White Emperor. The other immortal kings at the side didn't disturb Dong Xingting and Princess Lioli when they saw this scene. All of them were wily old foxes, how could their hearts not be as clear as a mirror? They all moved on their own. It was rare for these immortal kings to meet each other and now that they were all gathered together, even if there were some unhappiness between them, they wouldn't mention it. They were all chatting happily as though they were old friends. Myriad Incarnations Immortal King, you are getting more and more beautiful. The Undying Immortal King smiled at the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King. The Myriad Incarnations Immortal King had a look of nobility on her face, she was indeed very beautiful. Although she had cultivated for many years, as an immortal king, she still looked as young as ever. Also, because of her powerful cultivation base, she exuded an aura of elegance. Every action of hers would cause people to be mesmerized. To ordinary people, she was like a goddess that could only be respected and not blasphemed. The old immortal king is still so good at talking. The Myriad Incarnations Immortal King smiled. Not only is she beautiful, she is also very good at teaching disciples. I've long heard that this disciple of yours, Hua Taishu, went to the world of reincarnation to temper himself. You guys are truly gutsy, there are very few people who could walk out of there alive. Even if they did, they would all become a madman. The Undying Immortal King cast a deep glance at Hua Taishu, only to see that his countenance was incomparably calm. This is also because of his hard work. The Myriad Incarnations Immortal King smiled. Your temper is still the best. Look at that deep flame Immortal King, he looks so angry. The Undying Immortal King smiled and shook his head. He then turned his gaze towards the deep flame Immortal King, only to see that the latter was currently walking downwards. Following the gaze of the deep flame Immortal King, they all saw Qin Wentian. So it turned out that a supreme immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate walked over to where Qin Wentian was. Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen, Zi Qingxian, Mu Yan, and Gu Lufeng were all gathered together. Another supreme immortal king walked over and the Idol Cloud Immortal King instantly introduced, this is Senior Supreme Mystic Immortal King from the Dongshengshan Gate. We pay our respects to Senior. The people of the Cloud Prefecture all bowed, only to see the Supreme Mystic Immortal King waving his hands as he smiled warmly. His gaze then turned to Qin Wentian and Jun Mengchen as he smiled, do the two of you have the confidence to enter the top 3? We will do our best. Qin Wentian politely replied when he saw that the Supreme Mystic Immortal King didn't have any ill intentions. If you can enter the top 3, you will become the personal disciples of His Majesty. However, His Majesty is usually very busy, and unless you become a personal disciple, it's very rare for him to guide you. Even if you become a personal disciple, he wouldn't have much time to guide you. Most of his time is spent cultivating in the Dongshengshan Gate. At that time, you too can follow me in cultivation, and I will do my best to guide you. It's fine if you too fail to become a sage child. If you are willing, you can enter the Dongshengshan Gate and join my tutelage. The Supreme Mystic Immortal King smiled, his words causing the expressions of the experts of the Cloud Prefecture to stiffen. The gazes they used to look at Qin Wendian changed. This was a Supreme Immortal King from the Dongshengshan Gate personally coming to recruit them as disciples. This indicated that even if the two of them couldn't become a sage child, they would at least become a personal disciple of an immortal king. This caused many people to be worried. They were worried that Qin Wendian would soar through the ranks. The Idle Cloud Immortal King, on the other hand, was very happy. He smiled. Qin Wendian, Jun Mengchen, the Supreme Mystic Immortal King, is an extremely powerful senior immortal king. Supreme Mystic. But at this moment, an untimely voice drifted over. The Deep Flame Immortal King walked over and spoke to the Supreme Mystic Immortal King. Supreme Mystic, I'm afraid your hopes will be dashed. It's impossible for them to become a sage child. This is especially so for Qin Wendian, it's even more impossible. Deep Flame, aren't you being a little narrow-minded by saying such words? The Supreme Mystic Immortal King furrowed his brows. This Deep Flame Immortal King should consider his own status, right? A war general of His Majesty actually dared to say such words in public? Do you know that a few years ago, His Majesty accepted a disciple in his particle world? The Deep Flame Immortal King spoke. I naturally know, it's just that I'm not clear of the details. The Supreme Mystic Immortal King replied. That time when His Majesty accepted a disciple, this young man almost became His Majesty's personal disciple. The Deep Flame Immortal King pointed to Qin Wendian. However, he didn't appreciate the good intentions of His Majesty and actually disobeyed His Majesty's orders. His conduct was extremely improper, and that was why His Majesty changed his mind and abandoned him. The Supreme Mystic Immortal King's countenance instantly changed when he heard this. No wonder both the Deep Flame Immortal King and Dongxing Ting had such an unfriendly attitude towards Qin Wendian. Although this young man came here again, wanting to seize another opportunity, it won't be so easy. The Deep Flame Immortal King stared at Qin Wendian as he continued. Chapter 863. The Supreme Mystic Immortal King instantly understood the meaning of the Deep Flame Immortal King's words. Qin Wendian had actually offended His Majesty before and was abandoned by him. In this case, it was truly impossible for Qin Wendian to enter the top 3. Only to see the Deep Flame Immortal King turning his gaze onto Qin Wendian as he continued, back then, you've already missed your chance. If you want to make a comeback, it won't be so easy. If you enter the top 3 again, maybe His Majesty might look at you in a different light. But the top 3 positions are destined not to belong to you. The ending hasn't arrived yet, aren't you being too decisive? Qin Wendian stared at the Deep Flame Immortal King as he spoke. The lips of the Deep Flame Immortal King curled up in a cold smile. This person was truly naive. Did he really think that the reason why His Majesty didn't accept him as a disciple back then was because he had angered His Majesty? Now, he wanted to use his outstanding performance to convince His Majesty. How laughable, Qin Wendian's hopes were destined to be dashed. Naturally, it was impossible for the Deep Flame Immortal King to tell Qin Wendian about this. He turned and spoke in a low voice, some things are already destined. They can't be changed with hard work. The meaning behind his words was extremely profound. Some things, until the very end, you will never know the ending. Qin Wendian replied. If the Deep Flame Immortal King carefully pondered over this sentence, he might discover that there was a deeper meaning behind it as well. However, the Deep Flame Immortal King didn't think too deeply about it. He only felt that Qin Wendian didn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Qin Wendian still believed that he would be able to enter the top 3, hence he used this sentence to reply to him. However, did he really understand what Qin Wendian was trying to say? Just like what he had said earlier, some things were already destined. It wasn't something that could be changed even with hard work. On the surface, this might seem to be mocking Qin Wendian's talent, but in reality, Qin Wendian understood that no matter how high his talent was, the top 3 rankers would still be able to block him from entering. But what about Qin Wendian's words? There were some things that you would never know until the very end. The Deep Flame Immortal King took his wine cup and walked away, chatting happily with the other immortal kings. It was as though the humiliation he received from Qin Wendian earlier didn't affect his mood at all. As for the Supreme Mystic Immortal King, he cast a deep glance at Qin Wendian as he sighed in his heart, feeling pity. He initially wanted to accept either Qin Wendian or Jun Mengchen as his disciples. Even if they were truly fortunate enough to become sage child characters, he would still be able to guide them. But now, Immortal King Supreme Profundity shook his head and left without saying anything more. So noisy, the ghosts won't go away. Jun Mengchen stared at the back view of the Deep Flame Immortal King as he clenched his fists tightly. This Deep Flame Immortal King had always been their enemy, pestering them with no intention of letting them off. Qin Wendian, I believe you can do it. Gu Lufeng patted Qin Wendian's shoulder as he spoke. Although you didn't manage to enter the top 20 this time around, don't be discouraged. Qin Wendian spoke to Gu Lufeng. He still remembered back then when he first met Gu Lufeng. Gu Liufeng's demeanor was unmatched throughout the generations. Don't worry, I'm not that weak. Maybe, my personality has changed, I'm inferior to you and Huataishu. Back in our particle world, I was a peerless genius. But when I came to the immortal realms, I saw many people who could suppress me, causing my personality to change. Maybe, I should learn from Huataishu and roam the immortal realms. Gu Lufeng spoke in a low voice. I believe in you. Qin Wendian smiled. There were simply too many geniuses in the immortal realms. If the geniuses of particle worlds didn't improve in the immortal realms, they truly couldn't be considered anything. After entering the immortal realms, you still needed to improve step by step. The people here were the most outstanding geniuses in the 13 prefectures. Which one of them wouldn't be a peerless genius if they were placed in their particle worlds? Next, the cultivation bases of the top 20 are all different. I wonder what rules will be used to select the top 10. I think that they will suppress their cultivation bases to the same level or it wouldn't be fair. Gu Lufeng spoke in a low voice. Everyone's cultivation base was different, it was truly difficult to compare. On the Great Platform, those immortal kings were also discussing the rules for the next round. For the top 20, the top 10 would be selected. In truth, they only needed to make it relatively fair. There was no way to make it absolute. There were many methods they could use to choose from, but the crucial point still depended on Dong Xingting's will. After all, he was the host of this immortal banquet on behalf of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. The immortal banquet was extremely lively. Those eliminated geniuses also gradually accepted the atmosphere of the immortal banquet. Although they missed this opportunity, they would still be core disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate in the future. They could even become elites and have a chance to enter the tutelage of a supreme existence of the Dongshengshan Gate. As long as they were willing to work hard, they would definitely have a glorious future ahead of them. For the outstanding disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate, many of them would become hegemons of a region after they entered the 13 prefectures. If they could cultivate to the immortal king realm, they would even have the chance to control an entire prefecture. Such authority could be said to be towering over the heavens. Although immortal kings weren't that dazzling here, what sort of place was this? The immortal banquet of the Dongshengshan Gate was organized for the sake of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. Immortal kings naturally wouldn't be that dazzling. Even for the Idol Cloud Immortal King and the others, one couldn't ignore their authority. How vast was a prefecture? In the Cloud Prefecture, there were a total of 81 counties and countless cities. The Idol Cloud Immortal King was the king of the prefecture, he could call the wind and summon the rain in the Cloud Prefecture. Although they were sitting together with the immortal kings now, this didn't mean that they truly felt that they have reached this level of status. It was only because this was an immortal banquet and they had to go through many tests to obtain this qualification. This proved that they had the potential to sit together with the immortal kings. As for their future, it would depend on how far they could reach in the future. As they chatted, time flowed by unknowingly. Dong Xingting returned to his seat and the various immortal kings also gradually quietened down as they returned to their seats. The experts below all soon quietened down. That powerful aura instantly caused them to feel a sense of imposingness from Dong Xingting. Dong Xingting swept his gaze over everyone as he spoke. Before this, I discussed with Princess Liuli and some of the immortal king elders and have already decided on the rules for the next round. For this round, we will choose 10 participants from the 20 participants. For this round, there will be no ranking system and the top 10 participants will all have their own rewards. The rewards will be given out after the immortal banquet ends. Naturally, for the top 3 rankers, their rewards are the most valuable. If you want to enter the top 3, you must first enter the top 10. The rules are very simple. Just follow the order of the names called out by Princess Liuli earlier. One by one, all of you will challenge those who are at the same level as you. There's no need to suppress your cultivation base. But for those who are at a different level, I will use treasures to suppress your cultivation base to the same level. The victors will temporarily be safe, and for the losers, after the first round of battle ends, you will still have a chance to challenge your opponent. For those who are defeated, they will be eliminated. Dong Xingting slowly continued, and there's one more point. For those who have already been defeated, the others cannot choose to challenge them again. I will give them a chance to take the initiative to prevent a situation where 2 powerful characters suppress a single genius. Everyone should be clear of this, right? The spectators nodded their heads. Dong Xingting had already explained things very clearly. They naturally understood. For the first battle, Gusu Tianqi, get on the platform. Dong Xingting's gaze swept over, landing in the direction of the eastern prefecture. Gusu Tianqi's silhouette flickered as he directly appeared on the platform. Momentarily, the other 19 participants all felt extremely nervous. If Gusu Tianqi chose to fight against them, the probability of them losing was extremely high. In that case, they would only have one chance to take the initiative and challenge someone else. For those who lost both battles, they would be eliminated. Supreme Moon Prefecture, MO1. Gusu Tianqi emotionlessly spoke. Upon seeing him choosing MO1, some people were extremely shocked. MO1 was the top ranker of the Supreme Moon Prefecture. Among the top 20, only Shi and Zi Qingxian were females. However, the spectators instantly understood the reason why Gusu Tianqi chose MO1. Maybe to him, it was the same no matter who he challenged. But since MO1 had the same cultivation base as him, there was no need for them to suppress their cultivation bases and they could directly fight against each other. Gusu Tianqi didn't like trouble. A simple and straightforward battle would naturally be the best. MO1's silhouette flickered as she swiftly appeared on the platform. She was clad in an icy blue robe, exuding an extraordinary aura. Her countenance was fair and clean, akin to a snow maiden of ice, pure and untainted by dust. MO1, can she fight against Gusu Tianqi? Jun Mengchen mumbled. Staring at the maiden before him, a trace of concern could be seen in his eyes. Somewhat difficult, but MO1 isn't ordinary either. Even if Gusu Tianqi wants to fight against her, he would have to bring out his true strength. Qin Wendian spoke. After the 3 of them saw MO1 ascending the platform, all of them were paying close attention to MO1. Because, MO1 came from the same place as them. MO1 of the Supreme Moon Prefecture, a disciple of the Heavenly Talisman Realm. In the top 20, other than the 3 of them, there was another disciple from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. MO1. Out of the top 20, 4 of them were from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. From the start till the end, they didn't even greet each other. In fact, they didn't even reveal any hints of their intentions, only silently observing each other's existence. MO1, who was clad in icy blue robes, appeared extremely calm. When she saw the blazing battle light radiating from Gusu Tianqi, a crisp crackling sound rang out in her surroundings as a world of ice appeared. The temperature of the surroundings abruptly plummeted. How cold! Even those seated far away from Gu Zhantian could feel the coldness radiating from Mo Wen. What was even more terrifying was that right now, Mo Wen's black hair had transformed into strands of icy silver, akin to sharp swords that hung behind her back. Her entire person seemed to have undergone a transformation. That frosty beauty's body was now covered with a layer of dreamlike aura, resembling a true ice queen. Dong Xingting's attack bore down on Mo Wen, exuding an incomparably resplendent light that was as dazzling as the sun. But when his attack neared Mo Wen, it felt as though even the light of the sun had turned into ice. Crackling sounds rang out, the fist light Dong Xingting blasted out was actually frozen solid. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying this coldness was. An ice spear shot out, and as crisp crackling sounds rang out, the frozen fist light shattered apart. That fearsome attack of Dong Xingting's was instantly neutralized. This Mo Wen also has a unique physique, it seems to be the rarely seen innate Frost King physique. An immortal king mumbled. If it wasn't for the fact that Gusu Tianqi was incomparably confident, he wouldn't have chosen Mo Wen for his first battle. Chapter 864. Gusu Tianqi retreated, returning to his original location. He didn't choose to continue attacking. When facing an opponent, a single strike would allow him to probe the depth of his opponent's strength. Mo Wen before him had an extraordinary physique and was an innate Frost King. Just based on pure attacks, he naturally wouldn't be able to defeat Mo Wen. Bzz. In the air, a terrifying blazing furnace appeared, enveloping the space above the battle platform. At the same time, numerous suns appeared in the air, a total of 9 suns. The light from each of the suns directly shot into the furnace, causing it to erupt with a terrifying heat. You aren't my opponent. Gusu Tianqi spoke in arrogance. As the sound of his voice faded, the boundless divine light from the furnace cascaded down onto him. Gusu Tianqi, who was immersed within, was akin to a heavenly divinity descending to the mortal world, unexcelled in this world. How powerful! The hearts of the spectators trembled. Before this, Gusu Tianqi didn't even use his full strength and easily defeated his opponents. But now, when he released his constellation, the might of that constellation was boundless. For ordinary opponents, there was no need for him to attack. That constellation was sufficient to slaughter countless experts on the same level as him. In front of absolute strength, numbers were nothing. Most probably, even if thousands of experts on the same level attacked Gusu Tianqi, they would still be incinerated by him. Mo Wen's fairy-like beautiful eyes also flickered with a solemn light. Her aura was still being released as a wave of ice engulfed the entire battle platform. In the air, an ice constellation manifested, clashing against Gusu Tianqi's furnace. Half of the sky was as hot as the blazing sun, while the other half was as cold as winter. In the air, the silhouettes of numerous Frost Kings appeared. They were all akin to ice goddesses, wielding long spears of ice in their hands. Their bodies seemed illusory yet real as they stared at Gusu Tianqi. Boom! Gusu Tianqi stepped out as the light from the 9 blazing suns grew even more intense. The light from the smelting furnace cascaded downwards, wanting to incinerate this entire space. Gusu Tianqi moved, radiating the light of a battle god as he moved towards Mo Wen. A blazing sun-long spear appeared in his hands. He stabbed out with his spear. This spear was like a real sun, penetrating through everything. Everywhere it passed by, a fiery light seemed to appear in the void, as though it was about to burn. In the void, the Ice Queen wielded the long spears in her hands and attacked at the same time. In an instant, the heavens and the earth were frozen. An ice light screen appeared, blocking in front of Mo Wen. The sun-long spear attacked. On top of the furnace, an incomparably hot flame began to spread from the tip of the spear, melting the ice light screen bit by bit. Break! Gusu Tianqi coldly snorted. A crisp cracking sound rang out as the icy screen of light shattered. His long spear was faster than light as it shot towards Mo Wen's throat. Mo Wen lifted his palms as boundless runic light flashed, transforming into a terrifying diagram that transformed into chains that frenziedly wrapped around the long spear, shooting towards Gusu Tianqi. Gusu Tianqi's other hand stretched out behind him. Instantly, numerous sun spears shot out explosively. Mo Wen retreated as the frost diagram in his hand shattered apart. Come down. Gusu Tianqi's palms waved in the air as numerous sun spears descended. His body shone with boundless radiance, resembling the god of the sun. Die! With a howl of rage, the sun-long spear shot out explosively in front of him. At the same time, Gusu Tianqi took a step forward, and with every step he took, his aura grew stronger. Gusu Tianqi's battle chi continued to surge madly. Mo Wen's entire body was enveloped by ice. When she saw the blazing battle light radiating from Gusu Tianqi, she knew that she had no way to win against him. She then spoke, "I've lost." As the sound of her voice faded, Gusu Tianqi halted his steps. That towering aura instantly vanished without a trace. Gusu Tianqi calmly stood on the battle platform. It was simply impossible to imagine that a 6th-level ascendant like him would be able to unleash such a towering aura. However, Mo Wen was also very powerful. It was just that she took the initiative to give up. She didn't want to waste too much energy fighting against Gusu Tianqi. From Mo Wen's point of view, it wasn't worth it to go all out against Gusu Tianqi. In the next battle, she had the initiative in her hands, she would definitely win. The two of them walked down the battle platform, leaving behind a deep impression in the hearts of the spectators. Second battle, Feather King of the Western Desert Prefecture. Dongxing Ting's countenance remained unchanged as he spoke again. Feather King stood up, and with a flap of his wings, he instantly landed on the battle platform. Feather King's countenance was extremely sharp, exuding an imposing aura. He naturally wouldn't challenge Gusu Tianqi, and after Mo Wen was defeated, he wouldn't be able to challenge her. Hence, there were only 17 participants remaining. Feather King's cultivation base was at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon. If he had the same considerations as Gusu Tianqi, he might have chosen an opponent at the same level as him. Those at the same level as Feather King were the top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianchen, and the top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Gu Zhantian. The three of them were the top rankers of their respective prefectures. In the earlier battles, they avoided clashing against each other. But in the future, it would be unavoidable for them to clash against each other. And indeed, Feather King's eyes flickered as he stared at Yi Qianchen and Gu Zhantian. The Qian Prefecture was one of the 3 great prefectures, and its fame was even greater. His gaze finally landed on Gu Zhantian as he spoke, "I shall choose you." Gu Zhantian's countenance stiffened, the others were all shocked as well. Feather King actually chose Gu Zhantian. The top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Gu Zhantian. In a situation where Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen, and Zi Qingxian were present, he managed to stand out and obtain the position of the top ranker. There was no need to doubt his combat strength and talent. Also, Gu Zhantian's performance earlier was extremely domineering as well. Yet under such circumstances, Feather King still chose to challenge Gu Zhantian. Such spirit wasn't something ordinary people could possess. Feather King, as expected of a young king from the winged devil race of the Western Desert Prefecture. Gu Zhantian's countenance turned cold. He was actually the second person to be challenged. This in itself was an act of contempt towards him. An instant later, Gu Zhantian stood on the battle platform, facing against Feather King. On Feather King's back, a pair of violet gold wings unfurled, incomparably dazzling. Devil runes circulated around his body, exuding an unexcelled might. Experts from the winged devil race, tempering themselves in the starry space, their speed and strength were all monstrous. Gu Zhantian's aura erupted forth as a flood dragon manifested, similarly displaying an incomparably powerful might. Only to see Feather King's silhouette flashed like a bolt of lightning, directly appearing before Gu Zhantian as he punched out, manifesting a towering amount of devil runes. Gu Zhantian roared in rage. His flood dragon howled as he rushed forth, clashing head-on with Feather King. An intense boom rang out, causing the entire battle platform to tremble. The might of the two of them towered up into the sky, directly clashing against each other. Chaotic currents of energy gathered around the two of them. Behind Gu Zhantian, a flood dragon could be seen howling unceasingly as a terrifying flood dragon appeared in the air. It was as though Gu Zhantian wanted to transform into a flood dragon. As for Feather King, he was even more unexcelled in the world. Terrifying devil runes circulated around his body, as though he had transformed into an astral war beast. His wings were also covered with countless devil runes. Kill! Gu Zhantian roared in rage, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. There seemed to be a body of a flood dragon enveloping him, and every strike he blasted out didn't feel like he was the one attacking. Instead, it felt like an incomparably baleful flood dragon was roaring, fighting a grand battle. Feather King's body seemed to have turned into a devil. Devil runes wrapped around him, and at this moment, he exuded the majesty of a human, the tyranny of a devil, and the violence of a demon. His punches caused the entire space to tremble. The two of them directly attacked each other, using the simplest method to battle. But this method is also the most dangerous and violent. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Both of them were extremely arrogant and didn't even bother to probe each other's strength. They directly clashed against each other, their bodies grew taller and taller, like two ancient war beasts clashing against each other in the air. How violent! The hearts of the spectators trembled. Gu Zhantian is the descendant of that madman, he would naturally be crazy when he fights. However, his opponent is none other than Feather King, the young king of the winged devil race. The Idle Cloud Immortal King felt his heart trembling. In an instant, it was unknown how many times the two of them clashed. Finally, Gu Zhantian let out a heaven-shaking roar as his long hair fluttered in the wind. His bloodline power surged forth, and at this moment, the originally handsome Gu Zhantian transformed into a three-headed and six-armed form, his attacks shaking the heavens and earth. However, the devilization of Feather King grew even more terrifying. His entire body transformed into a devil king as his wings flashed with killing intent. The attacks from his wings were even sharper than swords and sabers. The speed of their attacks was so fast that the eyes of the spectators couldn't even follow them. Gu Zhantian roared in rage as a divine glow enveloped him, raising his combat prowess. Boom! The sky trembled as numerous Feather King silhouettes appeared in the air. The number of silhouettes increased unceasingly, filling the entire starry space. These silhouettes all attacked at the same time, fighting against Gu Zhantian alone. Gu Zhantian folded ancient seals with his hands. His three-headed and six-armed form was enveloped by a divine glow, as though there was a divinity protecting him. He unleashed heaven-shaking attacks in different directions. There was a flood dragon tearing apart the sky, a Kunpeng spreading its wings, a Kiran going berserk. Each and every attack was so powerful that it caused the bodies of Feather King to shatter unceasingly. Powerful, too tyrannical. The combat prowess of these two. The spectators inclined their heads and stared at the starry sky. At this moment, a supreme devil appeared in the air, enveloping Feather King. At this moment, Feather King seemed to have transformed into an ancient devil. When he attacked, the devil in the air attacked as well. Gu Zhantian's countenance drastically changed as he howled in rage, causing chaos to erupt in the sky. Gu Zhantian is about to be defeated, he has already used up all his trump cards. The countenances of the spectators changed when they saw this. This young king of the winged devil race, the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, was simply too terrifying. And as expected, after the chaos, Gu Zhantian was finally blasted off the platform. Feather King's wings flapped as he floated in the air, coldly staring down at Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian was defeated. Only to see at this moment, Gu Zhantian's countenance turned ashen. He was defeated, he was actually defeated. Beautiful. In the direction of the Cloud Prefecture, Jun Mengchen was extremely excited when he saw Gu Zhantian's defeat. In this case, as long as he lost one more round, he would be eliminated. Senior brother, I will challenge Gu Zhantian later and make him fight against me. I want him to be unable to enter the top 10. Jun Mengchen's eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. Qin Wendian glanced at Jun Mengchen as a cold light flickered in his eyes. Gu Zhantian and Black Peak, these two must be ruthlessly abused. However, since Gu Zhantian was defeated, he couldn't challenge Qin Wendian anymore. Gu Zhantian had the initiative for the next battle. Chapter 865. Feather King's wings flapped as he transformed into a beam of violet gold light, instantly returning to his seat. Gu Zhantian exuded a sense of desolation as he walked towards the Cloud Prefecture's camp. The halo of the top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture hung above his head, yet he was defeated by the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Feather King. Even his arrogance involuntarily retracted. The Winged Devil race is known as the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, but they only won by a hair's breadth. Gu Zhantian is indeed the top ranker of our Cloud Prefecture. An expert from the Cloud Prefecture spoke, as though he was consoling Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian's eyes flashed as he felt more comfortable in his heart. But in truth, a defeat was a defeat. Gu Zhantian himself was merely seeking comfort in his heart. At this moment, a cold snort rang out, extremely ear-piercing to the ears. Gu Zhantian furrowed his brows, and after that, he heard Jun Mengchen speaking, "What top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture? Earlier in the selection test, us three brothers didn't do our best. If not, senior brother Qin wouldn't have jumped 3 levels to challenge him, and the position of the top ranker would not have fallen to him. How ridiculous. Back then you guys were defeated. Gu Zhantian obtained the position of the top ranker, but now you guys are trying to find excuses." The expert who spoke earlier glanced at Jun Mengchen. He was someone from the Battle Heaven's immortal manor and wasn't on good terms with Qin Wendian and the others. In that case, isn't it even more ridiculous for you to find excuses for Gu Zhantian's defeat? He was defeated by someone on the same level, how shameless. Jun Mengchen intentionally mocked. Facing the sharp gaze of Gu Zhantian, he continued in arrogance, "Gu Zhantian, you merely cultivated for a few years earlier, hence your cultivation base is slightly higher. As for the so-called top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, that's nothing but a joke. Not long ago, you were still incomparably arrogant, yet you were defeated by someone on the same level? How ridiculous. If this wasn't an immortal banquet, just based on your words, I would have killed the 3 of you." Gu Zhantian's voice was ice-cold as he stared at Jun Mengchen, Qin Wendian, and Qin Wendian. "Ha, how shameless." Jun Mengchen roared with laughter. "It's easy to kill us. So what if it's during the immortal banquet? Later on, when you have the initiative to challenge me, you can just challenge me. If you want to fight me to the death, that's not a problem. Do you dare?" As Jun Mengchen spoke, he pointed his finger at Gu Zhantian, exuding an incomparable arrogance, causing many to turn their gazes over. This battle was originally supposed to be fought by Jun Mengchen, but sadly, Gu Zhantian had already been defeated and he had no way to take the initiative to challenge Jun Mengchen. Internal battle of the Cloud Prefecture, interesting. This young man seems to be intentionally provoking Gu Zhantian, wanting to settle the grudge between them here. The spectators instantly saw through Jun Mengchen's thoughts. As for Gu Zhantian, he was just defeated and was even pointed at by Jun Mengchen. How could he swallow this anger? "Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." Gu Zhantian walked towards the crowd and closed his eyes to meditate. That earlier battle had stirred him up greatly. He needed to calm his heart and prepare for the next battle. Earlier, Jun Mengchen's battle had also caused Gu Zhantian to be extremely shocked. He felt some trepidation in his heart. Under the situation where he was poisoned by the blood poison, he was actually able to kill the disciple of the Absolute Poison Immortal King. That strike left a deep impression on everyone. If Jun Mengchen was in his peak condition, he didn't know if Gu Zhantian would be able to block it. And it was precisely because of that attack that Princess Glaze placed Jun Mengchen at the very top of the list of candidates for the next round. For this battle, Jun Mengchen would be the one to fight. Jun Mengchen's silhouette stepped onto the platform, causing many to be filled with nervousness. Each of the participants before him all had extremely high combat prowess. In addition to the fact that there were already 4 participants who fought before him, Jun Mengchen would definitely choose one of the remaining 15 participants, excluding Qin Wendian and Zi Qingxian. For those on the same level as Jun Mengchen, only the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Xia Jiufeng, is left. I wonder if he would choose Xia Jiufeng or not. The hearts of the spectators mused. And indeed, the crowd saw Jun Mengchen staring in the direction of the Eastern Prefecture. He then stared at Xia Jiufeng as he spoke, "You shall fight." Xia Jiufeng was the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture and was also extremely powerful. When he fought, he was like a crazed devil and was an extremely terrifying character. Before the immortal banquet started, many people in the external world thought highly of him and felt that he had a high chance of becoming one of the top 3 rankers. But following the commencement of the immortal banquet, more and more peerless geniuses appeared. Not to mention the top 3, even the competition for the top 10 positions was extremely intense, and it was hard to obtain a single seat. Xia Jiufeng swiftly appeared in front of Jun Mengchen. The two of them stood facing each other, and at the same instant, an incomparably violent aura gushed forth from both of them as their constellations appeared. Jun Mengchen's king constellation seemed to have a majestic king standing behind him as a terrifying Jun Mengchen's shadow could be seen in the air. This shadow was the constellation he had comprehended and was extremely unique, completely different from the constellations of ordinary people. It was a fusion of many types of true intense, manifesting the physique of a king. Xia Jiufeng's constellation was actually somewhat similar to Jun Mengchen's constellation. Jun Mengchen's constellation was in the form of a human while Xia Jiufeng's constellation was in the form of a beast. It was an incomparably terrifying demonic beast that resembled a barbaric ox king. It had a pair of horns on its head and its entire body was crimson in color. It was tens of meters tall and exuded an incomparably fearsome might. One was like a war king while the other was like a crazed demon king. The two of them stepped out, rushing towards each other. Only to see Jun Mengchen howling as the terrifying shadow of his constellation also howled in rage. Violent killing intent gushed forth, as though there were demonic beasts and divine weapons gushing out. This entire space transformed into a chaotic battlefield, sweeping through the void, annihilating everything. Xia Jiufeng roared in rage. He punched out with both fists, instantly causing chaos to erupt in the sky. Numerous barbaric demonic beasts rushed out, suppressing everything in all directions, wanting to destroy everything. The two of them clashed head-on. Offense is the foundation of stellar martial cultivators. Any supreme expert would definitely have an extremely powerful offense. This batch of geniuses are simply too many in terms of offense. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw this. Before this, Feather King, Gu Zhantian, as well as Gusu Tianqi and Mo Wen, all of their attacks were extremely terrifying. Jun Mengchen's attacks were tyrannical, akin to a king. Xia Jiufeng's attacks were wild and savage. The collision between the two of them could be said to be world-shaking. For a period of time, a chaotic shockwave filled the air, as though the entire space was about to shatter apart. Die! Jun Mengchen roared. A boundless king halo radiated from him, causing his physique to grow even more imposing. His attacks exuded the aura of a king, casually pointing a finger at Xia Jiufeng, as though a casual punch could destroy everything in its path. The pressure on Xia Jiufeng was extremely great. He inclined his head and howled, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The constellation in his constellation grew even more chaotic as an incomparably gigantic demonic shadow appeared in the air. Xia Jiufeng soared up into the air, floating in the air. He stared at Jun Mengchen as he roared, "You will lose for sure." As the sound of his voice faded, he howled once more as he punched out with both his fists. Instantly, countless barbarian demonic beasts trampled through the air, numbering in the tens of thousands. For a moment, the rumbling sounds caused the eardrums of the spectators to tremble. The attack of a single barbarian king was already incomparably powerful. Now that there were tens of thousands of barbarian king demonic beasts, how crazy was that? Jun Mengchen stood proudly in the air. Upon feeling the destructive chi gushing over, he donned a dazzling king battle robe as the king's silhouette behind him shone with a resplendent light, causing an incomparably divine battle halo to envelop Jun Mengchen. How can you defeat me? Jun Mengchen was incomparably arrogant, standing in the air as a boundless divine glow radiated from him. When the barbarian bull smashed into Jun Mengchen, it actually crumbled apart, having no way to move him at all. Rumble, boundless energy gushed forth, yet they were all destroyed. Upon seeing this scene, Xia Jiufeng, who was in the air, was completely dumbfounded. He stared in disbelief at this scene, staring at Jun Mengchen, who was advancing step by step. The spectators were all dumbfounded. Jun Mengchen, how terrifying was he? If it wasn't for him being careless and being poisoned by the blood poison earlier, he wouldn't have been able to defeat the disciple of the absolute poison sect. Xia Jiufeng's countenance drastically changed. Although this wasn't his maximum combat strength and he could still be stronger than this, when he saw this scene, his confidence was instantly shattered as his countenance turned pale. Staring at the silhouette of that supreme king getting closer and closer, Xia Jiufeng couldn't help but to sigh in his heart. How many geniuses were there in this batch of participants? I concede. Xia Jiufeng spoke, admitting defeat. He was completely convinced. Thank you for letting me win. Jun Mengchen emotionlessly spoke. His aura of a king gradually retracted as the two of them left the battle platform together. When Jun Mengchen returned to the Cloud Prefecture's camp, he smiled at Qin Wendian and Ziqing Xian, resembling the radiance of a young man. It was simply impossible to imagine the imposingness he exuded during combat. Even Gu Zhantian, who was not far away from him, had a hint of trepidation in his eyes when he stared at Jun Mengchen, feeling somewhat worried about the upcoming battle. Suppressing their cultivation bases, would he, Gu Zhantian, be able to defeat Jun Mengchen? Could this Jun Mengchen grow any stronger? Has he reached his limit? Nobody knew. Other than being poisoned by the blood poison, there was no one else who could force Jun Mengchen to his limits. And when he was poisoned by the blood poison, he destroyed his opponent with a single punch as well as the radiance radiating from him earlier. Senior brother, it's your turn. Jun Mengchen didn't bother about the shocked crowd. He spoke to Qin Wendian. Right now, they only had a single goal, to become one of the top 3 rankers. The few of them had to fight for it. At the very least, one of them had to ruthlessly slap the Deep Flame Immortal King's face. Nothing was fated. Qin Wendian nodded his head lightly as he walked forward. An instant later, he appeared on the battle platform. His gaze swept over the crowd, causing many to speculate. Who would this Qin Wendian challenge? Only to see at this moment, Qin Wendian turned his gaze onto the Deep Flame Immortal King as a mocking smile appeared on his face. He would let the Deep Flame Immortal King see the ending. But before that, it was time to settle the grudge between him and Black Peak. I challenge the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, Black Peak. Qin Wendian's voice was cold, intentionally adding the words disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King in front of Black Peak's name. His meaning was clear even without words. He wanted to challenge Black Peak, to slap the Deep Flame Immortal King's face and let everyone see how he defeated the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King. Chapter 866. The Deep Flame Immortal King sat there, staring at Gu Zhantian, staring at the young man who stood there arrogantly, staring back at him. At this moment, the self-confidence in Qin Wendian's eyes made it seem as though to him, fighting against Black Peak was an extremely easy task. This was a battle he would definitely win, a battle to humiliate him, the Deep Flame Immortal King. The Deep Flame Immortal King was speechless, he didn't say anything. He only glanced at Black Peak, hoping that his disciple wouldn't disappoint him. Black Peak walked towards the battle platform step by step. Even before he stepped on the platform, a terrifying aura gushed forth from him. An abyss of destruction manifested, as terrifying abyssal flames that could devour everything appeared. The black-colored light radiating from it caused people to feel a deep sense of dread. Different cultivation levels suppress each other. Dong Xingting spoke. An instant later, an immortal king waved his hand. In an instant, a terrifying diagram manifested in the airspace above Gu Zhantian. This diagram directly enveloped the entire area, and in an instant, Black Peak and Qin Wendian both felt a sense of suppression. Their cultivation bases were now the same level. Black Peak's constellation manifested as his aura grew stronger and stronger. His palms stretched out, exuding a terrifying black-colored destructive energy, causing the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. Black Peak followed the deep flame immortal king to temper himself, cultivating in the outside world and receiving the guidance of the deep flame immortal king. His attacks would surely be extremely terrifying. As for this Qin Wendian, he's also an existence that no one can see through and has shocking potential. Before this, Qin Wendian once humiliated Black Peak, saying that he spared Black Peak's life. Let's see if Black Peak can wash away that humiliation with this battle. The spectators only saw that the two of them didn't move, but the auras they exuded grew more and more ferocious, growing stronger and stronger. Strands of abyssal black mist circulated around Black Peak. The destructive energy contained in his palms grew stronger and stronger, as though his constellation wanted to devour the heavens and earth into the abyss. Those arrogant words you said earlier, if you can't prove them with your actions, how are you going to continue living in this world? Black Peak walked forth step by step. Every single step he took gave off a feeling of extreme danger. At this moment, Qin Wendian's aura also gushed forth ferociously. The violet gold suppression constellation shone resplendently as a silhouette of light floated behind him, exuding a heaven-suppressing might. With a thunderous boom, his entire body radiated a dazzling light as he unleashed his battle art. His entire body was shrouded in a resplendent light, resembling a god of war. Boom! There seemed to be a roaring wave coming out of his body, buzzing. The halo on Qin Wendian's body became even more dazzling. He released the second battle art, and the power of his body increased by several times. What secret art is this? It seems like Gusu Tianqi has also cultivated this energy before. Eastern Sage Cliff. Those experts from the Dongshengshan Gate all understood when they saw this scene. They naturally knew what the battle art Qin Wendian unleashed signified. This was an immortal art left behind by an extremely powerful immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate. Only those with extremely high comprehension abilities would be able to comprehend it. In such a short period of time, he was actually able to comprehend two battle arts at the same level as Gusu Tianqi. Someone spoke in a low voice. This battle art is different from the other places in the Eastern Sage Cliff. It purely relies on one's comprehension ability. Many people have immersed themselves in it for many years, yet they still couldn't even see the surface of it. This has nothing to do with the amount of time they spent in it. For those with inferior comprehension abilities, they wouldn't be able to comprehend anything at all. That's right, this Qin Wendian has comprehended the second battle art. His comprehension ability is extremely high. Just as they were conversing, an even more resplendent light radiated from Qin Wendian. He seemed to have transformed into a true god of war. His entire body seemed to have undergone a transformation. Battle light enveloped him, as though he was clad in battle armor, incomparably resplendent and resplendent. 3 levels. The eyes of several immortal kings froze as they stared at Qin Wendian, who was on the battle platform. Before this, Qin Wendian had also used battle arts, but this was the first time he unleashed the 3rd level. In the short period of time he spent cultivating in the Eastern Sage Cliff, Qin Wendian had actually accomplished something many of his disciples would never be able to do. His comprehension ability is truly outstanding. Someone sighed. At this moment, Black Peak's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. His aura grew stronger step by step as his destructive might towered up into the sky. His entire body radiated an aura of extreme danger. However, the aura radiating from Qin Wendian didn't grow stronger step by step. Instead, it grew stronger by several times, causing Black Peak to feel a sense of trepidation in his heart. A blood-colored light circulated around Qin Wendian's body. His eyes gleamed with a crimson light, exuding an incomparably demonic aura. With just a single glance, his dreamworld constellation manifested. Black Peak only felt himself entering Qin Wendian's dreamworld as his countenance turned heavy. His aura, which was still growing stronger, was unceasingly suppressed by Qin Wendian's aura. At the same cultivation level, what do you have to fight against me? Qin Wendian was incomparably cold and arrogant. On the surface of his body, runic light flowed. His body, which was originally already incomparably resplendent, was unceasingly growing brighter and brighter, causing Blackpeak to feel a sense of unease. How many trump cards did this man before him have? How strong could he be? Rumble, Qin Wendian's body expanded to 100 meters in size as he stared down at Blackpeak. At this moment, Blackpeak seemed so tiny in front of him, as though he couldn't even be mentioned. What did Blackpeak have to fight against Qin Wendian? In terms of astral souls, one could say that Qin Wendian wouldn't be at a disadvantage when facing against anyone. His constellation was strong and not weak, his bloodline was stronger than Blackpeak's, the 3-level battle art, the fiend god body refinement art, his body covered in divine inscriptions, all of these trump cards combined together caused Qin Wendian to transform into a demonic god. Just by standing there, he gave off an incomparably terrifying pressure. Blackpeak inclined his head and stared at Qin Wendian. His heart was constantly changing. As Qin Wendian's aura grew stronger, his self-confidence grew weaker and weaker. At this moment, he no longer had the conviction to press onwards. In addition to the fact that he was already defeated by Qin Wendian at the Eastern Sage Cliff Range, there was already a shadow in his heart. His conviction was slowly being nibbled away, destroyed. Boom! Qin Wendian took a step out as a thunderous bell chime rang out, causing Blackpeak's heart to pound as well. What do you have to fight against me? Qin Wendian spoke again, his voice akin to thunder from a clear sky, blasting into Blackpeak's eardrums. In the center of his brows, an incomparably demonic light flashed as a third eye appeared. In just an instant, a blood-colored bolt of lightning directly shot into Blackpeak's sea of consciousness. Instantly, Blackpeak felt a supreme pressure from Qin Wendian attacking his will. Suppression. Qin Wendian's palm imprint blasted downwards. Terrifying runic light circulated within the palm imprint, containing a fearsome suppression law energy, causing the entire space to tremble. This energy was able to suppress the heavens and earth, the fiend god heavenly suppression art was able to kill immortals and devils. Thunderous roars of rage rang out. Blackpeak's will struggled, but when he broke free from Qin Wendian's will attack, he only saw that terrifying palm imprint slamming down with unstoppable force. Blackpeak's countenance was pale white. At this moment, he actually felt as though he couldn't defend against this attack. It was as though the supreme conviction he had gathered earlier had been completely shattered at this instant. Blackpeak roared in rage as a destructive might surged upwards, blasting towards the void. However, under the attack of the gigantic palm imprint that seemed capable of suppressing everything, it was directly reduced into nothingness. That palm imprint was too fast, so fast that it transformed into divine might, like a divinity wanting to destroy Blackpeak. Blackpeak's lips curled up, he was about to concede. Boom! An earth-shattering bell chime rang out. The timing was incomparably accurate, it was as though Blackpeak's voice rang out at the same time. The terrifying bell chime directly drowned out Blackpeak's voice, as though Blackpeak didn't even speak at all. Abruptly, an expression of despair flashed on his face. A thunderous boom rang out as the earth trembled violently. The entire ancient Zhantian was trembling as the bell chimes continued reverberating through the air. It was like the echo of the earlier bell chimes, reverberating through the air. That echo was like the death knell of death. The gigantic palm imprint completely engulfed Blackpeak. The eyes of everyone widened, they didn't dare to believe this scene before their eyes. Blackpeak, the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, was actually killed by Qin Wendian with a single strike? The fiend god heavenly suppression art was able to suppress and kill immortals and devils. In addition, Qin Wendian used the 3 levels of the fiend god heavenly suppression art as well as many other trump cards. He wanted Blackpeak to die directly on the ancient Zhantian platform, not giving him any chance at all. This battle was for the sake of taking Blackpeak's life. Who? Staring at that incomparably gigantic frame, even immortal kings felt a sense of fear in their hearts. Black Peak was the personal disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, yet he was killed by this young man with a single strike. Qin Wendian truly dared to kill him. Also, given their judgment, how could they not have discovered that earlier Black Peak was shouting for him to concede? However, Qin Wendian was bent on taking his life, hence he used the bell chime to drown out Black Peak's pleas for help. Qin Wendian had steeled his heart, he wanted to kill his opponent no matter what. And he did it. With just a single strike, he took Black Peak's life, not even giving him the slightest chance of survival. This was simply a ruthless slap to the face of the Deep Flame Immortal King in front of everyone. In fact, he even stepped on the face of the Deep Flame Immortal King, using the most direct and brutal method to trample and humiliate him. Didn't the Deep Flame Immortal King look down on Qin Wendian? Didn't he say that it was impossible for Qin Wendian to enter the top 3? In that case, what about the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King? I, Qin Wendian, in front of everyone, on the battle platform, I used a single strike to kill your disciple. The Deep Flame Immortal King truly felt pain from being trampled on. Earlier when he first saw Qin Wendian, he didn't care about Qin Wendian at all. But now, he was completely enraged. His anger wasn't because of Black Peak's death. In truth, Black Peak was killed by Qin Wendian in the most direct and violent manner, causing him to feel hatred for his disciple Black Peak. That useless fellow caused him, as his master, to lose all face. His countenance turned black. This was especially so when Qin Wendian stood on the battle platform and stared at him from afar. Qin Wendian's attitude was like a victor, mocking him, an immortal king of a generation. The personal disciple of Senior Deep Flame Immortal King seems to be a little weak. Qin Wendian didn't bother about the expression on the Deep Flame Immortal King's face as he spoke. It was as though he was trampling on the Deep Flame Immortal King's face, and at the same time, stomping on it. This face was simply too painful. Chapter 867. The Deep Flame Immortal King stared at Qin Wendian, his eyes cold as he spoke. Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian inclined his head, staring straight at the Deep Flame Immortal King. It's a small matter for you to provoke this seat. However, you actually dared to break the rules, killing Black Peak after he admitted defeat, disregarding the rules of the Dongshengshan Gate, disregarding the existence of immortal kings. How should this crime be dealt with? The Deep Flame Immortal King coldly spoke. Did he admit defeat? I didn't hear it. If Senior Deep Flame Immortal King wants to take revenge publicly, I have nothing to say. Who asked you to be a Supreme Immortal King of the Dongshengshan Gate? As for me, I'm merely a celestial phenomenon ascendant who came here to participate in the immortal banquet. Qin Wendian directly retorted. He naturally didn't hear it. He was afraid that Black Peak would admit defeat, hence he used his sound waves to drown out Qin Wendian's voice. Not only did he not hear it, the others didn't hear it as well. I didn't hear it as well. Jun Mengchen spoke. Before this, the Deep Flame Immortal King walked down and told my senior brother that some things are already destined and will never change. Could it be that no matter how senior brother performs, he would definitely be eliminated? If this is the case, it's fine even if we don't enter the Dongshengshan Gate. The 3 of us will naturally return to the mountain to cultivate. You guys. The Deep Flame Immortal King stared at these people as his countenance turned cold. Everyone had personally witnessed the grudge between him and Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian even killed his disciple in front of him, challenging his prestige and humiliating him. Now that he spoke out to convict Qin Wendian, it was clear that he was using his position to avenge his personal grudges. Deep Flame Immortal King, forget it. At this moment, Dongxing Ting spoke. The Deep Flame Immortal King stared at Dongxing Ting only to see the gleaming light in his eyes. He had no way to tell what Dongxing Ting was thinking. The Deep Flame Immortal King understood that Dongxing Ting, the son of the Immortal Emperor, would naturally handle this matter well. Snorting coldly, the Deep Flame Immortal King coldly swept his gaze over and didn't say anything more. Qin Wendian returned to his seat. Right now, out of the 20 chosen, only 19 remained. 8 of them had already fought, leaving 12 who had yet to fight. Zi Qingxian of the Cloud Prefecture, it's your turn. Dong Xingting's gaze was very calm, he glanced at Zi Qingxian but his heart was filled with coldness. Seems like Qin Wendian must have had a miraculous encounter in the immortal realms and became the disciple of a powerful master. This was why he was able to grow to such a level. Princess Liuli was right next to him. Naturally, he would not deliberately act against Qin Wendian. Otherwise, if Princess Qing knew about this, she would be able to guess a lot of things. Zi Qingshuan's silhouette walked up the platform. Qin Wendian and Jun Mengchen both had a high chance of passing. She definitely had to obtain a victory as well. There was not a single weakling among the experts in front of her. The person she was most confident in defeating was naturally Su Feng, who was at the same cultivation level as her. After all, they had fought before. To her, this battle was very simple. I challenge Su Feng. Zi Qingxian turned her gaze onto Su Feng, her words causing Su Feng's expression to turn heavy. It was impossible for stellar martial cultivators to change too much in such a short period of time. The strong would be strong, the weak would be weak. Su Feng knew that even if they fought again, he would still lose to Zi Qingxian. I concede. Su Feng didn't step onto the platform. He still wanted to leave his hope to himself. He would go all out and try his best to break through the top 10. It was simply too difficult to enter the top 10. Right now, there were no weaklings at all. Gu Zhantian, fight me. At this moment, Dong Xingting called out. Gu Zhantian was finally his turn. Before this, he had already lost a round. If he lost again, he would be directly eliminated. Would it be a civil war in the Cloud Prefecture? The gazes of the spectators turned to Gu Zhantian. Before this, Jun Mengchen's words provoked and humiliated Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian promised that he would fight a life-and-death battle against Jun Mengchen. But after that, Jun Mengchen's performance was incomparably domineering, defeating Xia Jiufeng. Would Gu Zhantian still keep his promise and challenge Jun Mengchen? This battle, to Gu Zhantian, was extremely difficult to choose. He had already lost once, he couldn't afford to lose again. If he lost again, his name would no longer be in the top 10. On the platform, Gu Zhantian stood there as his eyes flickered with uncertainty. It was as though he couldn't make up his mind. Evidently, Gu Zhantian was hesitating. His conviction, his self-confidence, was no longer as strong as before. He didn't have the certainty of victory. Regardless of Jun Mengchen or Qin Wendian, he didn't have the confidence to win. If not, he wouldn't hesitate to directly challenge one of them. Qin Wendian and Jun Mengchen stared at Gu Zhantian as an intense battle intent flickered in their eyes. In fact, Jun Mengchen directly lifted his pinky finger, pointing it downwards, as though he was looking down on Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian clenched his fists tightly as his battle intent towered up into the sky. He was the number one genius of the Cloud Prefecture, how could he lose his will to battle? He, Gu Zhantian, even if he was defeated, he wouldn't cower from battle. This battle was for the sake of victory, and also for the sake of dignity. In his eyes, a sharp gleam of light erupted forth. Gu Zhantian stared at the Cloud Prefecture's camp and pointed his finger at Qin Wendian instead of Jun Mengchen. Before this, you have always wanted to fight against me. Let me grant you your wish. Qin Wendian, scram the hell out. Gu Zhantian roared in rage, challenging Qin Wendian to a battle. Jun Mengchen's eyes flickered with a cold smile as he stared at Qin Wendian beside him. Gu Zhantian was destined to be defeated. The number one genius of the Cloud Prefecture wouldn't even be able to enter the top 10. Qin Wendian stood up and walked towards the platform once more. He was the victor earlier, hence the people behind him could still challenge him. A life-and-death battle, how about it? Qin Wendian spoke. Earlier when Jun Mengchen was poisoned, this Gu Zhantian didn't forget to curse him. His killing intent towards Gu Zhantian was extremely strong, not any weaker compared to Black Peak's. A bright light flashed in the air, suppressing the cultivation bases of both of them. Gu Zhantian's countenance flickered as he stared fixedly at Qin Wendian. However, he didn't reply. Although he had the confidence to challenge Qin Wendian, he didn't have the courage to do so in a life-and-death battle. Especially when Qin Wendian just killed the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, Black Peak. His constellation, astral souls and chaotic aura gushed forth in an instant. Gu Zhantian didn't reply to Qin Wendian's words, he could only fight. Qin Wendian unleashed his battle art as rumbling sounds rang out from his body. 3 layers of battle arts were unleashed consecutively as a blood-colored light flashed. Runic inscriptions flowed on his body, as though he was clad in a blood-colored fiend god battle armor, unexcelled in the world. Back then when Gu Zhantian fought against senior brother Qin, he was 3 levels higher than him, yet he was still so arrogant. How ridiculous. If they were at the same level, senior brother Qin would be able to easily destroy him. Jun Mengchen impolitely spoke. His gaze swept through the geniuses and major powers of the Cloud Prefecture. All of them had a prejudice against his senior brother Qin Wendian, but the rise of his senior brother Qin Wendian wasn't something anyone could obstruct. Gu Zhantian manifested 3 heads and 6 arms, exuding an incomparably chaotic aura as he blasted out towards Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian's suppression constellation radiated boundless violet gold light, shattering the space as rumbling sounds rang out. Gu Zhantian blasted out a flood dragon and a Kirin, causing the heavens and earth to tremble violently. Qin Wendian's silhouette flickered as numerous phantoms appeared at the same time. It was as though there were millions of Qin Wendian. These phantoms grabbed out with their palms, as though they could pluck the stars from the constellation, shattering all energy. Gu Zhantian roared, his entire body was in a state of frenzy, as though a flood dragon was protecting him. Every strike he unleashed caused numerous demonic phantoms to appear, frenziedly clashing against Qin Wendian's attacks. Only to see at this moment, Qin Wendian once again manifested a million phantoms. This time around, the phantoms actually left behind a trail of afterimages as they spread out in all directions, wanting to engulf Gu Zhantian within. It was as though there were millions of Qin Wendian clones within. How terrifying was the attack power of this innate technique? Can he withstand the exhaustion of such an innate technique? The immortal king stared at Qin Wendian. For such an innate technique, it was impossible for him to condense so many phantoms. It should be that Qin Wendian created millions of phantoms in a short instant, and each of the phantoms could unleash the same attack as the true body. However, the exhaustion of energy was already extremely shocking. Staring at the millions of phantoms that appeared in that short instant, Gu Zhantian's heart trembled. His conviction to battle was being nibbled away as he recalled the death of Black Peak. Each of the phantoms of Qin Wendian was shining with a boundless battle halo. It was simply too terrifying. Just a single one of them was already so hard to deal with. Even the countless eyes of Qin Wendian gave off a stifling pressure. I concede. Gu Zhantian roared, it was as though he had exhausted all his energy. Qin Wendian, who was preparing to attack, suddenly started. After that, the phantoms all vanished as though they had fused back into one. The battle light radiating from Qin Wendian was still as bright as ever. He stared at Gu Zhantian and didn't say anything. He merely lifted his foot and walked towards the direction of the Cloud Prefecture's camp. But to Gu Zhantian, wasn't this a form of humiliation? He and Qin Wendian had always been anticipating this battle. But now that the battle had arrived, it ended in such a manner. He, Gu Zhantian, was eliminated. The first in the cloud state stopped at the top 20. Arg. Gu Zhantian is eliminated. He's not allowed to challenge him again. Dongxing Ting calmly spoke. The hearts of many couldn't calm down. The number 1 genius of the Cloud Prefecture was actually eliminated in such a manner. As for that 27th ranked young man from the Cloud Prefecture, he killed Black Peak in the first battle and eliminated Gu Zhantian in the second battle. Who was the true number 1 heaven's favorite in Yunzhou? No matter what, Gu Zhantian wouldn't have the qualifications. After this battle, Qin Wendian could already lock in the top 10. The top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianchen, will fight. Dongxing Ting spoke. Yi Qianchen walked up the battle platform. Qian Province's number 1 challenged Mo Province's number 1 prodigy, Yan Zimo. In the end, Yi Qianchen was the victor. Next, the number 1 of Li Prefecture, Sang Ao, challenged the number 1 of Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan. In the end, Sang Ao Li won. Blazing Sun Province's number 1, Dugu Shishan, challenged Yu Province's number 1, Gu Hong. In the end, Dugu Shishan was the victor. The more famous geniuses of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures were using their strength to defend their honor. After all, in many of the 13 prefectures, only a single genius was still standing on the battle platform. Chapter 868. After Dugu Shishan's battle ended, it was now Mo Wen's turn. The number 1 genius of the Supreme Moon Prefecture, Mo Wen, had already lost a battle before. However, her opponent was Gusu Tianqi. Her defeat was within reason. No one would dare to say they wouldn't lose when facing Gusu Tianqi. At that time, Mo Wen had already displayed an extremely tyrannical strength. Also, she automatically gave up at the end. Nobody had seen how strong her combat prowess was. Let's hope she can win. Jun Mengchen spoke in a low voice when he saw Mo Wen stepping up. This Snow-White maiden was also from the Heavenly Talisman realm, causing him to feel a sense of closeness to her. He naturally hoped that Mo Wen would win. If Mo Wen was defeated, she would be eliminated. And now, the number of people Mo Wen could challenge was already very few. For those who were defeated, she couldn't challenge them. For those who won, each and every one of them was extremely terrifying. Western Desert Prefecture, Sorrowless. Mo Wen stated the opponent she wanted to challenge. Sorrowless was the 3rd ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture and he hadn't fought before this. If she challenged him, her chances of winning would be higher. Mo Wen also wanted to play it safe. Sorrowless was none other than the monk Qin Wendian met before at the Eastern Sage Cliff. His robes were tattered as he walked up the platform. His bronze-colored skin gave off a sense of immense strength, masculine and ferocious. His gaze was extremely terrifying, giving off a sense of supremacy. He chanted the name of Buddha, and golden light shone between heaven and earth. A terrible golden ancient Buddha appeared in the void, and endless golden light shrouded Wu Bei's body. He slapped his palm, and there seemed to be a terrible golden Buddha palm print attacking. Mo Wen released her Frost Monarch Chi as the shadow of the Frost Monarch appeared in the air. Wielding an ice spear, she froze the entire space. With a wave of her hand, a screen of frost appeared as the golden palm imprint blasted over. At this moment, a terrifying frost chi gushed forth, unceasingly corroding this entire space, causing the entire space to be covered in frost. Wu Bei's constellation seemed as though it was about to be frozen. The terrifying frost chi contained an extreme coldness. Wu Bei's expression did not change. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the air. In an instant, boundless runic light fluttered like the Dharma. Boundless runic light flashed in the sky. Above the sky, figures of ascetic Buddhas appeared. They sat cross-legged, closed their eyes and chanted sutras. Terrifying Buddha light appeared between heaven and earth, enveloping the sky. It actually turned into a golden body that enveloped Wu Bei. If one looked from afar, one could vaguely see the shadow of an incomparably huge golden ancient Buddha. The power of the Frost Monarch's ice encroached over, sealing the entire golden light screen in ice. However, the frigid air couldn't penetrate through. This defense could be said to be terrifying. In this year's Immortal Banquet, only the Western Desert Prefecture can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Cloud Prefecture. The Cloud Prefecture has 3 senior and junior brothers while the Western Desert Prefecture has 3 people from different powers. The hearts of the spectators mused. The 2 of them engaged in a frenzied battle. Mo Wen transformed into a snow goddess, her long hair transformed into ice crystals, flawless and flawless. She was like a spirit of snow, unceasingly attacking. Wu Bei unceasingly spat out Buddhic light. That Buddhas in the air could even unleash attacks. Numerous ancient bells materialized in the air. This was actually the same as the innate technique Qin Wendian had used before. It was something he cultivated in the Eastern Sage Cliff. This Wu Bei's defense is truly strong, his attacks are powerful as well. The spectators felt more and more shocked as they watched on. However, Mo Wen's strength was also gradually erupting forth as her body grew colder and colder. At the end of the battle, she wielded an ice spear and transformed into a true goddess. With a single strike, the heavens and earth froze. The boundless golden light screen also froze before shattering. Nobody could block it. Mo Wen's strength caused the spectators to be stunned. When she fought against Gusu Tianqi, she didn't even use her full strength before she admitted defeat. Now, she already couldn't afford to lose and fought with all her might. Her Frost Monarch physique erupted forth and finally defeated Wu Bei, obtaining victory. Next, it should have been Blackpeak's turn to fight. However, Blackpeak had already been killed by Qin Wentian, so he naturally didn't have to fight. And so, it was Xia Jiufeng's turn. Xia Jiufeng, who had lost to Jun Mengchen, had already lost a battle, so he had the initiative. It was also his turn to choose his opponent. He was the same as Mo Wen. He could not afford to lose and had to fight for a victory with all his might. However, he could not challenge those who had lost. He could only challenge the victors and those who had not fought before. For the previous victors, any one of them had already displayed their overwhelming combat prowess. It would be extremely difficult to fight against them. Xia Jiufeng stood on the platform and hesitated. He then turned his gaze to those who hadn't participated yet. It seemed like there were only 3 people left who had yet to participate in the battle. The second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta, the disciple of the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King, Hua Taishu, the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King, Ruthless. To Xia Jiufeng, this was clearly an extremely difficult choice. At this point, all of his opponents were extremely terrifying. Now, he had to defeat one of them in order to avoid the fate of being eliminated. I challenge Qin Ta of the Western Desert Prefecture. Xia Jiufeng spoke. In the end, he locked onto the 3 who hadn't fought before. Hua Taishu was extremely famous, Ruthless was the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. That Devil King was simply too terrifying. It was still better to choose Qin Ta from the Western Desert Prefecture as he would have a higher chance of winning. The second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Xia Jiufeng, and the second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta. They stood on the platform, facing each other. Was the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture or the second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture? Before this, the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture had already been defeated by the second ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Jun Mengchen. Xia Jiufeng could no longer afford to lose. The barbarian king's shadow flashed in the sky as the space changed. A constellation appeared, manifesting a tyrannical demonic beast that was incomparably violent. The moment Xia Jiufeng appeared, it was as though he was going to use his strongest combat prowess. Qin Ta's physique was gigantic, akin to a giant. He was a terrifying heaven chosen of the Western Desert Prefecture, the Heavenly God race. People from the Heavenly God race were born with boundless divine strength. They were like heavenly gods, able to move mountains and overturn seas. Their offense and defense were once the strongest in the entire Western Desert Prefecture. Upon seeing Xia Jiufeng going berserk, Qin Ta roared in rage. His entire body shimmered with the light of a heavenly god as cracking sounds rang out from his body. His body expanded to a height of 10 meters, exuding a majestic aura. Behind him, a gigantic silhouette of 1,000 meters tall appeared, exuding boundless might. The people of the heavenly god race are born with the ability to sense unique constellations. These constellations are named heavenly deity constellations by them, and they are able to condense their heavenly deity astral souls. After that, the constellations they comprehend are all based on the heavenly deity constellations. This is the innate advantage those powerful races with ancient inheritances have. An immortal king spoke, his words causing Qin Wentian to feel shock in his heart. The immortal realms were many times more fascinating compared to particle worlds. For some ancient races, their talent wasn't only shown in their bloodlines, they were also born with an innate sensitivity to certain constellations. This was definitely an innate advantage. Such races were simply too terrifying, their inheritances wouldn't decline from generation to generation. Once a supreme character appeared, they would be able to lead this race to new heights. I'm afraid Xia Jiufeng is going to be in danger in this battle. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. This Qin Ta's strength was already extremely powerful, at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, very close to becoming an immortal. Although there was still a huge barrier separating them, his cultivation base was higher and his comprehension of the martial path was also deeper than Xia Jiufeng's. Even if his cultivation base was suppressed, he would still have an advantage in this aspect. In addition to the fact that he was from the heavenly god race, the possibility of Xia Jiufeng being defeated was simply too great. Xia Jiufeng naturally could also sense Qin Ta's strength. His countenance turned solemn as he roared in rage, causing the space around him to tremble as tens of thousands of savage beasts soared through the air, wanting to destroy everything. Qin Ta's countenance was calm. He stomped on the ground and blasted out with both his palms, penetrating through the void. The spectators only saw a pair of heavenly deities' fists sweeping across the heavens and earth, causing all the savage beasts in the surroundings to explode. Powerful, this level of attack power, he must be a supremely terrifying existence. Qin Ta, if he didn't suppress his cultivation base, he would be at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon with an extremely deep comprehension. The crowd sighed in admiration, all of them felt that Xia Jiufeng would be defeated again in this battle. Reality was just like what they predicted. Although Xia Jiufeng did his best and unleashed incomparably violent attacks, he was still defeated in the end. He was directly blasted off the platform by Qin Ta, flying through the air as he was heavily injured. The second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture was eliminated, unable to enter the top 20. After this battle ended, Black Peak died, Gu Zhantian was eliminated, and Xia Jiufeng was eliminated. None of these three were weaklings, all of them were supremely powerful existences. However, all of them were eliminated. This was the combat at the later stages of the Immortal Banquet, it was extremely brutal. No matter how strong a genius was, they would still lose consecutively, just like Gu Zhantian and Xia Jiufeng. After Xia Jiufeng, it was time for Qin Ta to fight again. Earlier, he had just defeated Xia Jiufeng, there was no meaning for him to fight again. Next battle, Sorrowless. Dong Xingting spoke. Sorrowless' battle with Mo Wen belonged to the loser category. Next, it was his turn, and since he had the initiative, he could choose his opponent. Sorrowless was also under immense pressure. Right now, only Hua Taishu and Ruthless hadn't fought a single battle yet. Other than the two of them, he could only choose those who were the victors. Ruthless. Sorrowless stared at the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. He challenged Ruthless. Ruthless exuded a terrifying baleful aura, akin to a baleful god. When he walked up to Gu Zhantian, devil chi gushed forth from him, causing people to feel fear in their hearts. Immortals, devils, immortals, devils. However, devils were much rarer compared to immortals. The path of the devil Tao was extremely tough, one had to be extremely ruthless to themselves before they could cultivate it. For powerful devils, they could even achieve a state where they had no desires and only focused on pursuing the path of the devil. A monk against a devil cultivator. Is this a battle between Buddhas and devils? The spectators saw Buddhic light radiating from Sorrowless, while devil chi gushed forth from Ruthless. He wielded a long spear in his hands that was even longer compared to ordinary spears. It was formed from devil energy and shone with a terrifying blood-colored light. Ruthless stepped out, moving towards Sorrowless. Every step he took caused devil might to surge up into the sky. The devil spear in his hand seemed to be able to penetrate through everything, containing a heaven-shaking might. The disciple of the undefeatable Devil King, Ruthless, is extremely mysterious and rarely fights. It's all thanks to His Highness Dongxing Ting that we can see him participating in this immortal banquet. An immortal king laughed as he stared at the battle platform. How strong would a disciple taught by the undefeatable Devil King be? Would he be able to slaughter his way out in this bloody path? Chapter 869. The baleful chi radiating from Ruthless was extremely heavy. Devil Chi churned wildly, as though he was clad in a devil armor. He was like a devil king, extremely terrifying. His body trembled as the platform rumbled. The long spear in his hand directly pierced out like a black bolt of lightning. Although there was still some distance between him and Sorrowless, the crowd could see that his black devil spear directly penetrated through the void, bringing with it a fearsome might as it blasted towards Sorrowless. There was no violent turbulence, it was like there was only this spear in this world, and all the devil energy was concentrated within it. Wu Bei blasted out a huge golden palm print. It was as fast as lightning and instantly collided with the spear. There was a loud explosion. The golden palm print was instantly shattered when the spear touched it. The spear continued to pierce through and pierced Wu Bei's body. The attacks of devil cultivators are naturally stronger, but their cultivation is also more difficult. Those who cultivate the devil path might fall into the devil path at any moment, consigning them to eternal damnation, becoming a tool of slaughter, losing their rationality and even exploding themselves to death. The number of devil cultivators is extremely few. Everyone stared at the heavy expression on Sorrowless' face. With a roar of rage, numerous Buddhas appeared, blasting out palm imprints at the same time, shattering the devil's spear. However, a towering devilish light enveloped Ruthless. His body expanded explosively as he transformed into a devil. Astral light flashed as an ancient devil manifested in the air. Ruthless brandished a heaven-shaking long spear in his hand as millions of long spears whistled through the air in rage. Ruthless stepped out, exuding boundless might. His countenance was cold as he silently stabbed out with his spear. However, at the instant this spear pierced out, boundless devil light converged together, transforming into a towering devil spear. At the same time, it was as though there were millions of devil spears exploding towards Sorrowless at the same time. Sorrowless frenziedly chanted Buddhic chants as boundless light gathered around him. His golden Buddha body had an unparalleled defense, but Ruthless struck out 10 times in a row. The devil trampled on his golden body as the long spear shook the heavens, shattering the golden Buddha body. Violence, this is the unique characteristic of devil cultivators. They are most proficient in violent attacks, relentless until you are defeated. Someone praised. As expected of the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. How powerful! His Majesty Dongxing Ting must have his reasons for choosing Ruthless and Huataishu. The two of them are in the second level of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures, it's too dangerous. To the geniuses from the 13 prefectures, it's an extremely huge test. It's extremely difficult to break through the two of them. An immortal king laughed. Dongxing Ting's eyes gleamed brightly. The people he chose were all 5th level ascendants and their reputations were all extremely resounding within the immortal realms. In the end, Sorrowless was defeated again. The powerful Western Desert State Sadhu lost 2 rounds and was eliminated. It wasn't that he wasn't strong. It was just that the current Gu Zhantian no longer had any weaklings. His 2 opponents were both extremely terrifying. Yan Zimo of the Qian Prefecture, it's your turn. You still have one more chance. Dongxing Ting spoke when he saw the 2 of them walking down the platform. Yan Zimo had already lost once before. He had lost to Qian Province's number 1, Yi Qianchen, who was extremely famous. Hence, when it was his turn this time, he had the initiative. Before this, others couldn't challenge him. But now, this was also his last chance. He could only challenge the victors and not the losers. Or perhaps, he could only challenge those who didn't have enough people after a single round. There was only one such person left, Huataishu. The pressure on Yan Zimo grew even greater. He truly didn't know who else he could challenge. Right now, the victors were Gusu Tianqi, Feather King, Jun Mengchen, Qin Wentian, Zi Qingxian, Yi Qianchen, Sang Ao, Dugu Shishan, Qin Ta, Ruthless and Mo1. 11 experts, he had to win against one of them. After all, not all 11 of them would be able to pass. Drawing a deep breath, Yan Zimo spoke, Zi Qingxian. Yan Zimo chose to challenge Zi Qingxian of the Cloud Prefecture. Zi Qingxian stepped onto the platform as a divine falcon glow radiated forth. At the instant the battle started, countless divine falcons soared through the air, whistling through the air in a frenzy. Zi Qingxian felt some anger in her heart. This Yan Zimo chose her out of over 10 participants. Did he think she was weak? Hence, she directly unleashed a powerful attack that engulfed Yan Zimo completely. In the end, Yan Zimo was defeated and was eliminated. After that, the top ranker of the Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan, stepped up. Ba Shan was defeated by Tsang Ao earlier and this was also his last chance. He had to win no matter what. He chose Qin Ta of the Heavenly God race. Regretfully, he had no way to defeat an expert from the Heavenly God race. His cultivation techniques were similar to Qin Ta's, both his attacks and defenses were extremely powerful, akin to an ancient mountain. However, Qin Ta was like a heavenly god, like a divinity descending to the mortal world, suppressing and defeating him. After the top ranker of the Mo Prefecture, Yan Zimo, was eliminated, the top ranker of the Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan, was eliminated as well. How cruel was this battle? After that, the top ranker of the Yu Prefecture, Gu Hongzi, stepped up. In the previous battle, he was defeated by the top ranker of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, Dugu Shishan. For this battle, when Gu Hongzi swept his gaze over those who could challenge him, he actually no longer had the confidence to win. 2 of the top rankers of the Blazing Sun Prefecture were eliminated one after another. Gu Hongzi chose the top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianchen. Yi Qianchen was naturally unhappy. After he stepped onto the platform, sword qi gushed forth as his silhouette flickered. Terrifying sword techniques were unleashed, enveloping Gu Hongzi within the abyss of death. Gu Hongzi admitted defeat. The 3 top rankers of the Thunder Prefecture were all defeated and eliminated. Next, it was the top ranker of the Thunder Prefecture, Su Feng. At this moment, one could very well imagine the pressure on Su Feng. Although he had entered the top 20, he still felt some despair. But no matter what, he still had to fight. I choose Hua Taishu. Su Feng stood on the platform as he spoke. It seemed like he had no other choice. Before this, Zi Qingxian challenged him and he admitted defeat. After that, the other victors were all exceedingly powerful. Only the mysterious Hua Taishu hadn't fought yet. He could only rely on Hua Taishu to break through. Hua Taishu. Qin Wendian and the others turned their gazes over, staring at the lanky silhouette walking down the platform. He was as handsome as ever, like an elegant young noble, untainted by even a speck of dust. It was just that the current Hua Taishu was even more extraordinary than before. His eyes were clear and deep, so deep that one couldn't even see the bottom of it. He who didn't exude any aura actually gave off an unfathomable feeling, unfathomable. Hua Taishu's body floated down onto the platform as though he was weightless. His eyes were calm as he stared at Su Feng. Such a feeling caused Su Feng to feel a sense of unease. Hua Taishu's aura was too faintly discernible, so faintly discernible that it felt surreal, so faintly discernible that it felt like an illusion. Boom! Su Feng instantly gushed forth with his strongest aura. Stepping out, his speed was like a bolt of lightning as a screen of light enveloped him. His silhouette directly vanished from sight as the terrifying 10,000 mammoths slashed down. However, in the next instant, Su Feng discovered that the surroundings were filled with Hua Taishu's shadows. He didn't know which one he should kill. Slash! Su Feng roared in rage. The 10,000 manifestations slashed down as Hua Taishu's shadows were destroyed one after another. However, very swiftly, Hua Taishu's silhouette appeared, calmly staring at him. His eyes were so clear, yet there was no way to see through him. Su Feng roared in rage, frenziedly attacking, killing endlessly. However, it was useless. The aura of all the shadows were the same, there were no flaws at all. He killed over 10,000 of them, yet Hua Taishu still stood there, staring at him. Arg! Su Feng felt as though he was on the verge of collapse. Boundless spatial energy enveloped him as he sped about on the platform, moving at an astonishing speed. Qi, Chi, Chi. Hua Taishu's silhouettes exploded one after another. Who was the real one, and who was the illusory one? The spectators all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this. Their gazes all turned to the myriad incarnations' immortal king, only to see a faint smile on her face, as though she was very satisfied with the shock of the spectators. Hua Taishu has truly obtained the true inheritance of the myriad incarnations' immortal king. This illusionary technique is simply capable of causing one's soul to crumble. Just by standing there, Hua Taishu is already sufficient to cause Su Feng's soul to crumble. The spectators sighed in their hearts. The battle on the platform caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Hua Taishu simply stood there, yet Su Feng didn't attack him. Instead, he was frenziedly attacking the illusory space around him. Evidently, what they saw was different from what Su Feng saw. Su Feng had already fallen into an illusionary realm the moment Hua Taishu stepped onto the platform. His eyes are an illusionary realm. The spectators sighed. Being able to walk out from the world of reincarnation, his eyes alone are sufficient to suppress many geniuses. Su Feng frenziedly attacked. He unleashed his strongest attack, instantly destroying the countless illusionary silhouettes. However, he was destined to be defeated. Because, Hua Taishu just stood there, yet he didn't attack. Finally, Su Feng's soul crumbled. With a howl of rage, he automatically gave up. Only now did he see that everything returned to normal. Hua Taishu was still standing on the platform, not releasing any aura at all. His calm eyes quietly stared at Su Feng's silhouette. Su Feng groaned in misery as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His countenance turned pale as though he was on the verge of collapse. At this instant, he became incomparably dispirited. So this is the case, so this is the case. Su Feng walked down the platform in a desolate manner. In this immortal banquet, he was truly a failure, a complete and utter failure. What a pity, let's hope his state of heart won't be affected. The spectators stared at Su Feng. In this immortal banquet, Su Feng was truly pitiful. It wasn't that he wasn't strong, it was just that the opponents he chose were all extremely powerful. How could he not be affected? Let's hope that Su Feng would be able to endure this. In the future, his state of heart would surely be even more outstanding. An immortal king spoke in a low voice, unwilling to see a genius fall. Hua Taishu walked down the platform. Next, it should have been him and ruthless battle. But before this, there were people who challenged them and they were all the victors. Hence now, the 12 victors have already been determined. 8 geniuses were eliminated. These 12 were, Gusu Tianqi, Feather King, Jun Mengchen, Qin Wentian, Zi Qingxian, Yi Qianchen, Zhang Ao, Dugu Shishan, Qin Ta, Ruthless, Mo and Hua Taishu. All of them had victory records. Right now, it was simply too difficult to choose 2 out of these 12. Every single one of them was an outstanding sky-prided son of heaven. Chapter 870. For the remaining 12 participants, how should they eliminate 2 of them? Among the 12 participants, 11 of them had yet to be defeated. Only one was an exception, Mo1. However, the reason for Mo1's defeat was because the one who challenged him was none other than Gusu Tianqi. If she was eliminated because of such a defeat, it would be extremely unfair. As for the others, who would dare to say that they wouldn't be defeated if they fought against Gusu Tianqi? What choice should they make next was simply too difficult. The gazes of everyone turned to Dong Xingting. At this moment, Dong Xingting's eyes flickered as he stared at the people in the surroundings. What do Princess Liuli and the other elders think? The simplest method is to let all 12 of them fight on the platform together and suppress their cultivation bases to the same level. Let them decide for themselves who will be eliminated. Princess Liuli's beautiful eyes gleamed with a strange light as she spoke. Good idea. What do the elders think? Dong Xingting laughed. His Highness will decide. An immortal king spoke. Since Princess Liuli and His Highness agree, we naturally have no objections. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Dong Xingting smiled, the 12 geniuses shall all fight on the platform together. You guys can decide for yourselves who will be eliminated. However, there's one point, no groups of 2 or more people are allowed to gang up on a single person. Naturally, if you guys have the patience to quietly wait on the platform, we will accompany you guys. The reason why Dong Xingting forbade people from ganging up on a single person was because he wanted to prevent people from forming an alliance. If they all decided to eliminate Gusu Tianqi first, wouldn't this rule be too terrible? In addition, Qin Wentian and his 2 fellow disciples weren't eliminated at all. The 3 of them were all Empyreans, and if they ganged up on Gusu Tianqi, there was no way anyone would be able to contend against them. After all, this was a battle where cultivation bases were suppressed. As the sound of Dong Xingting's voice faded, the 12 geniuses all stood up and walked up the platform, standing in 12 different locations. Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen, and Zi Qingxian stood together. Although there was some distance between them, one could clearly see that their relationship was extraordinary. As for the other participants, they all stood alone. On the platform, the eyes of the 12 geniuses shone brightly as they stared at the remaining geniuses. It was as though they were contemplating who among the 12 of them should be eliminated. Gusu Tianqi closed his eyes in meditation, as though this battle had nothing to do with him. King Yu's eyes were filled with arrogance as he swept his gaze over everyone. You guys can decide. As he spoke, he closed his eyes, full of arrogance. Evil chi flowed around Ruthless' body. His eyes were frightening as he stood there like a statue. Hua Taishu, who was beside him, was the exact opposite. His slender silhouette exuded a calm aura, as though he didn't exude any aura at all. However, after the earlier battle, no one dared to underestimate this personal disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king. What a difficult choice. Jun Mengchen mumbled, his eyes sweeping across the crowd before he replied, forget it, what does it have to do with me? After saying that, he couldn't be bothered to care anymore. He just sat on the ground as if it had nothing to do with him. Qin Wentian stood there quietly with his hands clasped behind his back. A breeze blew past and lifted his clothes. His expression was so indifferent. The 12 of them didn't dare to act recklessly. Dong Xingting and the other immortal kings weren't in a hurry either. Since these geniuses were so patient, they could wait patiently. When these people grew impatient, there would naturally be someone who would step out to challenge the others. Now, let's see who has the best endurance. On the battle platform, silence reigned. During the immortal banquet, everyone was chatting happily. This was especially so for those immortal kings, they acted as though nothing had happened. At their level, let alone a day or two, even a year or 2 years would pass by in the blink of an eye. Sometimes, when they were in closed-door seclusion, they would spend hundreds or even thousands of years. How strong their patience was, it wasn't something a little fellow at the celestial phenomenon realm could imagine. On the contrary, for an immortal banquet like the Dong Shengshan Gate, it was extremely rare for characters at the same level to gather together. This would only happen once every 100 years. To them, this was a rare opportunity to rest and chat, it was an extremely relaxing thing. Myriad incarnations, let's see how far this disciple of yours can go. If he can enter the top 3, would you be willing to let him enter the tutelage of His Majesty? The undying immortal king joked with the myriad incarnations immortal king. Of course not. The myriad incarnations immortal king smiled. You should know that I don't accept many disciples. His Majesty has students from all over the immortal realms and experts are as common as the clouds. He wouldn't lack a disciple of mine, right? That's the truth. This disciple of yours seems extraordinary, he would definitely become someone great in the future. The undying immortal king laughed. The myriad incarnations immortal king didn't mind. This old man would always praise everyone, who knows which words he said were true and which were false. Princess, which 2 of the 12 do you think will be eliminated? Dong Xingting, who was at the host's seat, was chatting with Princess Liuli. This was a rare opportunity, he naturally wanted to improve his relationship with Princess Liuli and chat with her from time to time. He didn't want Princess Lioli to feel that she was being neglected here. Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen, Dugu Shishan, Sang Ao, and Qin Ta. From their auras and innate techniques, the personalities of these few should be more explosive. However, this Qin Wentian is also reserved, he wouldn't act recklessly. As for the other four, they might be the first to lose their patience. However, this Jun Mengchen seems to be more obedient to his senior brother Qin Wentian. Since his senior brothers and sisters are different, it's possible that he wouldn't act. In that case, the ones most likely to act would be Dugu Shishan, Sang Ao, and Qin Ta. Princess Lioli spoke. Oh. I know Princess has the ability to read people, but the attacks of Feather King and Ruthless are also extremely violent. Even Gusu Tianqi is the same. Why doesn't Princess guess that they would act? Dongxing Ting curiously asked. The experts of the winged devil race are extremely patient. It's impossible for Feather King to act. Ruthless is a devil cultivator and his personality is unimaginably tough. As for Gusu Tianqi, there's no need for him to act. Nobody would look for him. Princess Lioli continued, as for Dugu Shishan, Sang Ao, and Qin Ta, the moment they act, the ones most likely to be eliminated would be none other than them. Is that so? The three of them are all extremely powerful. Dongxing Ting smiled. Let's wait and see. The atmosphere on the battle platform was still as quiet as ever. The patience of everyone was exceptionally good. The immortal banquet continued, the sounds of laughter and chatting could be heard. Those experts who were already eliminated were all quietly staring at the battle platform. They too wanted to know. Who would be able to become one of the top 10? Who would be able to become one of the top 3 rankers? It seemed that any one of them had a chance. They truly had no way to pick out the weakest. Being able to reach this step, those who had experienced true trials and tribulations had all been through. After a long time, Jun Mengchen was indeed feeling somewhat restless. His eyes opened a few times, but just like what Princess Lioli had predicted, Jun Mengchen also retracted his impatience when he saw how quiet Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian were. It was as though the only people here who could control him were only Qin Wentian and Zi Qingxian. If you want to move, just move. Why must you make things difficult for yourself? Finally, someone spoke. The person who spoke was none other than Sang Ao. He stared at Jun Mengchen as he spoke. Jun Mengchen's eyes flickered. He stared at Sang Ao and replied, "What does this have to do with you?" Sang Ao's countenance gleamed with sharpness as a cold light flickered in his eyes. He spoke in arrogance, "Among the three of you, it's time for one of you to scram the hell out. It's starting." The countenances of the spectators were all startled. Dongxing Ting glanced at Princess Lioli, his eyes gleaming with sharpness as he felt a little shocked in his heart. Just like what Princess has said, Princess' eyes are as sharp as torches. I'm impressed. Dongxing Ting praised. Jun Mengchen stood up. His personality was originally very impulsive and he was doing his best to control himself. How could he withstand Sang Ao's words? When he stepped out, a king armor materialized around him as though a supreme king had appeared. Every step he took was like a sovereign descending from the heavens. In that case, I will make you scram. Jun Mengchen arrogantly spoke. Sang Ao also stepped out. His aura was incomparably tyrannical as he exuded boundless strength. In my opinion, among the three of you, there should be more than one of you who should scram. Sang Ao coldly spoke. The king aura exuding from Jun Mengchen grew more and more terrifying. A king's silhouette appeared behind him as boundless energy congregated within him, radiating a blinding light. I will make you scram with a single strike. Jun Mengchen was incomparably arrogant. The two of them walked towards each other as terrifying rumbling sounds echoed out as a violent hurricane manifested. Arrogant. Sang Ao roared in rage as a surge of extreme energy gushed forth from him. Scram! Jun Mengchen roared in rage. The king's shadow behind him radiated boundless light as a supreme might bore down on Jun Mengchen. With a single strike, the heavens and earth trembled as the void trembled. Die! Sang Ao also roared. He punched out, wanting to lacerate everything, causing the heavens and earth to crumble apart. A beam of golden light tore through everything. It was actually able to break apart Jun Mengchen's attack. Their fists collided against each other. Sang Ao's countenance was incomparably arrogant. This punch contained his ultimate strength, causing golden cracks to appear in the air. This was a power that could tear apart all attacks. However, when Jun Mengchen's fist blasted over, Sang Ao felt an ancient might pressing down on him. That fist seemed to contain the power of kings, capable of shattering the heavens and earth. When he stared at Jun Mengchen, it was as though he was looking at a supreme king peering down at the heavens and earth. Boom! The attacks of the two of them collided as a resplendent halo of light radiated outwards in all directions, wanting to shatter the void. The experts around Gu Zhantian all gathered their attacks to defend against the aftershocks of the halo. The might of the halo seemed to be able to tear the bodies of people apart. After which, the crowd only saw Sang Ao's body being flung through the air. With a thunderous boom, his body slammed into the ground. One of his arms was completely destroyed as he screamed in agony. Terror could be seen in his eyes, as well as intense regret. Why did he choose to challenge Jun Mengchen? Why did he choose to fight Jun Mengchen? There was no one else in the top 10. Another punch. The hearts of the crowd trembled, incomparably shocked. This frivolous and unruly young man was so terrifying. Chapter 871. At this instant, the handsome image of Jun Mengchen grew even more majestic. That was Sang Ao, the number one genius of the Li Prefecture. With a single strike, his arm was severed and he rolled down the platform. The king armor on Jun Mengchen vanished. He stared ahead at Sang Ao as he spoke, "You can't even withstand a single strike. Are you even qualified to challenge me?" After speaking, he returned to his original location and quietly sat down. It was as though defeating Sang Ao wasn't something worthy of pride at all. Only the top 11 are left. There's still one more to go before the top 10 are determined. There shouldn't be anyone who dares to challenge Jun Mengchen and the other two. The hearts of the spectators mused. During the banquet, Dong Xingting cast a deep glance at Princess Liuli beside him. This Princess Liuli truly lived up to her reputation. Her judgment was extremely sharp. Indeed, Sang Ao was eliminated. On the battle platform, silence fell once again. The 11 participants all maintained their silence, as though this matter had nothing to do with them. Nobody took the initiative to provoke others. After all, this was already the final battle of the top 10. Nobody had absolute confidence that they would be able to defeat the other participants. Hence, everyone was extremely cautious. This wait lasted for a very long time. Finally, the aura of one of the participants fluctuated as though he couldn't endure it any longer. This person was none other than the number one genius of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, Dugu Shishan. Dong Xingting's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he murmured, "Princess has such a sharp judgment. It's rumored that Princess Liuli is able to peer into fate and no one's fate. Indeed, her reputation is well deserved. Could it be that Princess is able to predict the top 3 rankers? Using constellations to predict one's fate is only one of the myriad of martial paths. This isn't prophecy. Nobody would be able to predict everything. It's impossible for me to predict the top 3 rankers." Princess Liuli calmly replied. On the battle platform, Dugu Shishan's aura flickered in and out of existence. He was a heaven chosen of the Blazing Sun Prefecture and cultivated the power of blazing flames. His cultivation art was extremely tyrannical, and the cultivation art he cultivated would surely influence Wu Xiu's personality. For example, for those who cultivated in sinister arts, their personality would gradually become more sinister. For those who cultivated in ice arts, their aura would also become more reserved, like a block of ice. This was the norm. Dugu Shishan pointed at Mo1 and said, "What's the point of waiting like this? Mo1, I am number 1 in Chiang Province, and you are number 1 in Taiyin Province. Our cultivation powers are completely opposite. Let's fight. Mo Wen's figure was slim and her figure was perfect. She was an icy beauty. However, when she fought, her power was shocking. She stepped out, her frosty eyes staring at Dugu Shishan. Since Dugu Shishan wanted to fight, she could only accept. The two of them released their auras, one hot and one cold. Dugu Shishan's aura was incomparably blazing, as if it wanted to incinerate heaven and earth. Even the void seemed to be branded red. Mo Wen's aura was incomparably cold. Frost and frost extended outwards, sealing the heavens and earth. Even before the two of them clashed, cold and hot chi could already be felt congregating in the air. It was extremely terrifying and there were even faint sounds of sizzling could be heard. The spectators only saw that on the platform, there seemed to be a clear division of space. One space was blazing like fire, the other was as cold as ice. The two auras grew stronger and stronger as they clashed against each other. Dugu Shishan and Mo Wen walked towards each other, step by step. In the airspace above Dugu Shishan, a wheel of flames appeared. An incomparably scorching flame appeared within it. In his hands, there was also a wheel of flames that could incinerate everything. In the airspace above Mo Wen, the goddess of frost wielded a long spear, guarding him. Boom! Within the wheel of flames, a boundless amount of flames akin to fire dragons erupted forth, transforming into beams of fiery light that shot towards Mo Wen. The goddess of frost in the airspace above Mo Wen stabbed out with her spear, causing the heavens and earth to be sealed in ice. Frost and frost appeared, even the flames were about to be frozen solid. Terrifying sounds of sizzling rang out unceasingly. Dugu Shishan finally rushed out. The wheel of flames in his hands arced through the air as a wheel of wind and fire appeared in the air. The blazing flames tore through the air, slicing apart the frost as it directly shot towards Mo Wen. The long spear in Mo Wen's hand stabbed out with incomparable precision, directly colliding with the wheel of wind and fire. The flames exploded as the wheel of wind and fire shattered. However, Dugu Shishan continued his frenzied attack. Countless wheels of wind and fire brought about sizzling sounds as they sliced through the air, madly rushing towards Mo Wen. In an instant, the ice was corroded by the destructive flames, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Mo Wen's entire body was covered in a snowy robe. Her long hair was like frost, a shadow appeared behind her, as though she had transformed into an ice goddess. She wielded an ice spear as her silhouette flickered. In an instant, countless silhouettes of ice goddesses appeared in the air, following Mo Wen's movements. All of them wielded ice spears at the same time as they slashed out. Terrifying rivers of ice gushed out as the two forces collided unceasingly in the air. Everything was destroyed. Mo Wen's body floated towards Dugu Shishan. The shadow behind her released a divine radiance, enveloping her. In the blink of an eye, she seemed to have appeared in front of Dugu Shishan. "You're courting death." Dugu Shishan coldly snorted. His body released a boundless blazing radiance, as though his entire being had transformed into raging flames that could incinerate everything. A buzzing sound rang out from his body as a terrifying blazing chi current surged out. His palms slammed out as the all-destroying will diagram flew towards Mo Wen. That terrifying flame was truly capable of incinerating the heavens and earth. However, at this moment, Mo Wen's body seemed to emit an extreme coldness, as though she was a true ice queen descending to earth. The ice goddess was protecting her, covering her in a divine radiance, immortal and impervious to the raging flames. That terrifying flame frantically attacked the icy radiance, yet it was unable to break through. Mo Wen's long spear pierced out. Dugu Shishan's countenance was filled with shock as he stared at Mo Wen's silhouette. The terrifying will blocked in front of him, yet it was directly pierced through by the long spear. Following which, the wheel was sealed in ice, shattering into pieces. His body was also gradually turning into ice as his arms were slowly being frozen. "I concede." Dugu Shishan roared. He only needed an instant and his entire person would be transformed into an ice sculpture of death. As the sound of his voice faded, Mo Wen silently retreated. Dugu Shishan relied on the heat radiating from his body as well as the power of his bloodline to expel the ice from his body. His body swiftly recovered, but his countenance was still extremely unsightly to behold. This battle, he was defeated. He became the last person to be eliminated. Not only that, this battle was initiated by him. And now, the top 10 were revealed. Dong Xingting sighed in his heart. He couldn't help but to be impressed. Princess Liuli's judgment was much more accurate compared to his. She had hit the nail on the head. Song Ao and Dugu Shishan were the first to lose their patience. Both of them were defeated and eliminated. Dugu Shishan had a desolate look on his face as he walked down the platform. On the platform, only 10 participants remained. Congratulations to everyone for entering the top 10. Dong Xingting smiled, yet he was extremely unhappy in his heart. Among the top 10, Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian occupied 3 spots. However, although Dong Xingting was unhappy, he didn't have any objections. This Qin Wentian wasn't convinced back then and wanted to use his dazzling performance to enter the top 3, gaining the recognition of his father, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, and gaining a chance to interact with Princess Qing. Most probably, other than becoming the personal disciple of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, Qin Wentian had no other way to ascend to the heavens in a single step and come into contact with the daughter of the Changqing the Great. Qin Wentian was undoubtedly a fool talking nonsense. Even if he really managed to enter the Dongshengshan Gate, Dong Xingting had 10,000 methods to ensure that Qin Wentian would die without even knowing how he died. Naturally, even if this was the case, Dong Xingting still didn't wish for Qin Wentian to enter the top 3. If this fellow managed to enter the top 3 and didn't do something crazy like what he had guessed, it would definitely damage the face of his father. Although he felt that the possibility of this was very small, it was still better to be cautious. The geniuses of this batch aren't bad at all. The top 10 all have outstanding talent. An immortal king praised. Very strong indeed, I'm filled with anticipation. Everyone, let's head down the platform to rest first. After being so tense for so long, it's time to enjoy the delicacies. Dong Xingting laughed. After that, the 10 participants walked down the platform and headed towards different directions. The direction of the Cloud Prefecture's camp was extremely conspicuous because there were 3 supreme geniuses heading there. When Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian returned to the direction of the Cloud Prefecture, even those supreme geniuses of the Cloud Prefecture who didn't like them all shut their mouths at this moment. In the top 10, these 3 had a very high possibility of rising to glory. At the very least, they would be accepted as disciples by immortal kings. Although the 3 of them were very strong, the spectators didn't expect them to be this strong. All 3 of them actually managed to enter the top 10. How dazzling was that? Qin Wentian didn't care about them at all. On the contrary, he calmly sat down. Their goal wasn't merely to enter the top 10. Next, for the final battle of the top 10, we shall determine the final ranking. Everyone, what do you all think the rules should be? Dong Xingting stared at everyone as he asked. Princess Liuli always has her own thoughts. Why don't we ask her opinion? Princess, what do you think? Dong Xingting smiled. The final battle is extremely important, we have to be extremely cautious. It's better for your highness and the elders of the Dongshengshan Gate to decide the rules. Princess Liuli rejected. She naturally knew that this was the best time to decide the final battle. She mustn't overstep her boundaries and meddle in the affairs of others. Might as well. Since Princess has already speculated, only the elders and me can make the decision. Dong Xingting nodded as he started to discuss with the immortal kings. For the top 3 rankers, shouldn't the rewards be decided? Let us all have a competitive heart. Only to see at this moment, a clear voice drifted over. The gazes of everyone turned in the direction of the Cloud Prefecture only to see that the person who spoke was none other than Jun Mengchen. All of them couldn't help but to curse in their hearts, this fellow was truly too impatient. Did he really think that he would be able to enter the top 3? However, given Jun Mengchen's strength, the spectators didn't dare to deny the possibility of this happening. However, becoming a sage child of the Dongshengshan Gate and being accepted as a personal disciple by the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor, wasn't this enough to make him competitive? Why must there be a reward? This fellow was truly comical. Little fellow, the status of one of the top 3 rankers is much more valuable compared to the rewards. An immortal king laughed. That's the personal disciple of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor. Let's talk about the rewards first. There's no conflict anyway. Jun Mengchen continued. He wouldn't take the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor as his master anyway. Okay then, I will talk about the rewards first. Dong Xingting laughed.